I stood in front of the floor-length mirror, adjusting my silk dress one last time. The mother of the groom dress I'd spent weeks choosing suddenly felt like a costume. My hands trembled as I smoothed down the fabric, remembering how Natalia had sneered when I mentioned I'd be wearing navy blue. "How appropriate," she'd said, her voice dripping with disdain. "I'm Kendall, and today my stepson is getting married. For 15 years, I've been more of a mother to him than his birth mother ever was, but you wouldn't know it from the wedding preparations. 5 minutes until the ceremony." The wedding coordinator's voice echoed through the church hallway. I took a deep breath and stepped out of the powder room. The familiar scent of lilies filled the air. Natalia's choice, of course. She'd steamrolled over Bianca's preference for simple wildflowers, just like she'd done with every other wedding decision. "Kendall," Jade, my best friend, hurried toward me in her burgundy bridesmaid dress. "You look stunning." "Thanks," I whispered, forcing a smile. "Have you seen Liam? He's with his mother." The way Jade emphasized mother made my stomach clench. "They're in the bride's room." Of course they were. I'd learned to expect these little exclusions over the years, but today they stung more than usual. I made my way to the ceremony, taking my assigned seat in the second row. Shane, my husband, squeezed my hand as I sat down. "You okay?" he murmured. Before I could answer, the music started. Bianca looked radiant walking down the aisle, but my eyes were fixed on Liam, my boy. The same kid who'd crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who'd helped me in my first restaurant's kitchen, who'd called me Mom until Natalia put a stop to it. The ceremony was beautiful, despite Natalia's theatrical sniffling from the front row. Everything went perfectly until the reception. I should have known something was wrong when Liam avoided my gaze during the family photos. When the photographer called for mother and son shots, Natalia practically sprinted forward, shooting me a triumphant look. "Actually," I said, stepping forward, "maybe we could do one with both." "Mom's fine," Liam cut in, his voice sharp. "Just Mom." The silence that followed was deafening. I felt every eye in the room on me as I stepped back, my cheeks burning. But that was just the beginning. During the reception, I watched Liam approach the microphone for his speech. My heart swelled with pride, remembering the nervous teenager who'd once been terrified of public speaking. "I want to thank everyone for being here today," he began, his voice strong and clear. "Especially my mother, who's always been there for me, who's shaped me into the man I am today." I smiled, touched until I realized he was looking directly at Natalia. "And I need to address something," he continued. "There's been some confusion over the years, but I want to make it clear. I have one mother, and that's Natalia Peters. Kendall might be married to my father, but she's not my mother. She never was, and she never will be." The champagne glass nearly slipped from my fingers. Across the room, Natalia was beaming, tears streaming down her face. Shane's hand found mine under the table, but I pulled away. "I'm sorry if that hurts anyone's feelings," Liam added, not sounding sorry at all. "But it's time to set the record straight." Jade reached for me, but I was already standing. The room spun as I made my way to the exit, past the whispers and stares. Behind me, I heard Bianca calling Liam's name in a shocked tone, but I couldn't stop. In the hallway, I ran into Helen, Shane's sister. She caught my arm as I stumbled past. "Kendall, wait," she said, her eyes fierce. "There's something you need to know." "Not now, Helen," I choked out. "Yes, now." Her grip tightened. "You think you know this family. You don't know anything. But I do. I know why Natalia's always been so threatened by you. Why she's poisoned Liam against you all these years." I tried to pull away, but her next words froze me in place. What would precious Natalia do if everyone knew the truth about Liam's real father? The world stopped spinning. I stared at Helen, my heart pounding in my ears. "What are you talking about?" Helen's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Meet me tomorrow. I'll tell you everything." I watched her walk away, my mind racing. Behind me, the reception continued, music and laughter spilling into the hallway. 15 years of love and sacrifice, thrown back in my face. But now, for the first time, I had a chance to fight back. The question was, how far was I willing to go? The morning after the wedding, I sat across from Helen at my empty restaurant, watching her stir her third spoonful of sugar into her coffee. The place wouldn't open for hours, but I couldn't risk being overheard. "You're probably wondering why I never said anything before," Helen said, tapping her spoon against the rim of her cup. "I'm wondering if you're just trying to stir up trouble," I replied. "You haven't exactly been a stable presence in this family." Helen laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's what they want everyone to think, isn't it? Crazy Helen, the family embarrassment. Did Shane ever tell you why I stopped coming to family events?" I shook my head. Shane rarely talked about his sister. "It was right after Liam was born. I caught Natalia with—" She paused, taking a sip of coffee. "Well, let's just say she wasn't with Shane." "That doesn't prove anything," I said, but my hands were shaking as I remembered my first introduction to this family. "Remember when you first started dating Shane?" Helen asked, as if reading my mind. "How Natalia suddenly started showing up at every family dinner every weekend?" I did remember. It had been 12 years ago, but the memories were crystal clear. "You brought homemade lasagna to that first dinner," Helen continued. "Natalia took one look at it and said, 'We don't eat peasant food in this house,'" I finished. Then she ordered takeout from that expensive Italian place. She was marking her territory. She knew you were different. You actually cared about Liam, not just appearances. A knock at the restaurant's window made us both jump. It was Jade, right on time. I'd asked her to come. I needed a witness I could trust. "Sorry I'm late," Jade said as I let her in. "Traffic was—" "Helen, what are you doing here?" "Telling truths that should have been told years ago," Helen replied. Jade looked at me questioningly as she sat down. I nodded, silently asking her to listen. "I have proof," Helen said, pulling out her phone. "Emails, text messages, photos." Natalia wasn't as careful back then as she thought. She slid the phone across the table. The timestamps on the messages were from 25 years ago, but the content made my stomach turn. "That's not all," Helen continued. "Remember last Christmas, when Liam had that health scare?" I did. He'd needed a blood transfusion after a car accident. Shane hadn't been a match. "The doctors said that happens sometimes," I said weakly. "It happens when the father isn't the father," Helen corrected. "Shane knows. He's always known. Why do you think he drinks so much at family functions?" "If this is true," Jade interrupted, "why tell Kendall now?" Helen's face softened. "Because I watched you yesterday, Kendall. I watched you love that boy for 15 years. I watched you show up to every game, every graduation, every milestone. I watched you build this restaurant from nothing while Natalia used her family's money to tear you down. And yesterday, I watched that kid break your heart because his mother poisoned him against you." Tears burned in my eyes. "He was only 10 when I married Shane. He used to—" I swallowed hard. "He used to call me Mom when Natalia wasn't around." "Until she found out," Helen finished. "Then suddenly you were just Kendall, or my dad's wife." "I remember that summer," Jade said quietly. "You cried for days." "Natalia's been so afraid of losing her grip on Liam that she spent years making sure you could never threaten her position," Helen said. "But she's the fraud, not you." My phone buzzed. A text from Shane. "Where are you? We need to talk about yesterday." "What am I supposed to do with this information?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "That's up to you," Helen said, standing. "But remember, Natalia's power comes from appearances, and now you know what's behind them." After Helen left, Jade moved to sit beside me. "Are you okay?" "No," I admitted. "I keep thinking about all the times Natalia called me an outsider, a gold digger, all the times she told Liam I was trying to replace her. She knew the whole time she was the one living a lie." "What are you going to do?" I looked at my phone, at Shane's message waiting for a response, at the wedding photos already popping up on social media, showing the perfect family moment when Liam had publicly rejected me. "I don't know," I said, "but I'm done being the villain in their story." Jade squeezed my hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm here." I nodded. thinking of the way Liam had looked at me yesterday, with such practiced disdain, thinking of all the years Natalia had spent crafting that moment. Helen's right about one thing, I said finally. This family runs on appearances. Maybe it's time someone shattered them. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Shane. Natalia's asking about you. Says she wants to clear the air. I bet she does, I thought, closing my eyes. After all these years of playing by their rules, maybe it was time to write my own. I sat in my car outside Natalia's sprawling mansion. Helen's phone clutched in my hand. She'd given it to me before leaving the restaurant, saying I might need the evidence. Now, watching Natalia's silhouette move behind gauzy curtains, I felt my resolve strengthen. The front door opened before I could knock. Natalia stood there in a cream-colored cashmere sweater, perfect makeup hiding any signs of yesterday's celebrations. "Kendall," she said, her voice honey-sweet, "I'm so glad you came." I followed her into the living room, where Shane sat nursing what looked like scotch, at 2 p.m. "Darling," he said, standing awkwardly, "we've been worried." "Have you?" I kept my voice neutral. "That's interesting." Natalia perched on the edge of her designer sofa. "About yesterday. I know Liam's speech must have hurt you, but you have to understand." "Oh, I understand plenty," I cut in. "In fact, I had a fascinating conversation with Helen this morning." The glass in Shane's hand trembled slightly. Natalia's smile froze. "Helen?" she said. "I wasn't aware she was in town." "She never left. She's been watching this family's performance for years." I pulled out Helen's phone. She kept excellent records. Shane set his glass down hard enough to slosh liquid over the rim. "Whatever Helen told you, is it true?" I turned to face my husband. "Did you know? All this time, did you know Liam wasn't yours?" The silence that followed was deafening. Natalia's face had gone chalk white. "Those are dangerous accusations," she finally said, but her voice shook. "Answer me, Shane." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "It was complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Was it complicated when you watched me try to be a mother to your son for 15 years? Was it complicated when you let Natalia tear me down again and again, knowing she was living a lie?" "You don't understand," Natalia started. "Show me the messages, or I'll show them to everyone else." I held up Helen's phone. "Your choice." Natalia's composure cracked. "Fine. Yes, okay. Michael was... We were in love, but he was married, and my family would have cut me off if they knew. Shane agreed to help. For a price, I guessed, looking at my husband. What did they offer you? Money? Status?" Shane took another drink. "Her father got me the partnership at the firm. The pieces clicked into place. The country club membership, the sudden promotion, the way Shane had always deferred to Natalia's family." "Does Liam know?" "Of course not," Natalia snapped. "And he never will. It would destroy him." "Like you destroyed me yesterday?" I stood up. "Like you've been destroying me for years?" "That was different," she protested. "I had to protect my relationship with my son, by making him hate me, by turning every act of love I showed him into something sinister." "Please," Shane said, finally finding his voice. "Think about what this would do to Liam, to the family." "Family?" I turned on him. "You mean the family that stood by while your son humiliated me at his wedding? The family that's been living a lie for 25 years? "What do you want?" Natalia asked, her voice small. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of our entire conversation. Natalia's face went from white to grey. "You recorded us." "I learned from the best," I said. "You taught me all about protecting myself, remember?" "Name your price," she whispered. "I don't want your money." I walked to the door, then turned back. "I want you to remember this moment. Remember that I know. Remember that every time you try to hurt me or push me out, I have the power to bring everything crashing down." "You wouldn't," Shane said. "Think about Liam." "I have thought about Liam. For 15 years, he's all I've thought about." I met Natalia's eyes. "The question is, have you? Have you thought about what your lies have done to him, or were you too busy protecting your own image? I left them there. Natalia collapsed on her sofa, Shane standing helplessly beside her. In my car, my hands shook as I called Jade. "How did it go?" she asked. "It's true, all of it." I started the engine. They admitted everything. "Are you going to tell Liam?" I thought about his face at the wedding, the carefully crafted disdain. Thought about all the years of manipulation that had created that moment. "I don't know yet," I said honestly, "but I'm done being their victim." As I drove away from Natalia's perfect house, with its perfect facade hiding decades of lies, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: power. The question was, what would I do with it? Shane was waiting in our kitchen when I got home, a half-empty bottle of scotch on the counter. His tie was loose, his hair disheveled, a far cry from the polished lawyer everyone else saw. "We need to talk," he said. "Now you want to talk?" I grabbed a wine glass from the cabinet. 15 years of watching me try to be a mother to your son, sorry, Natalia's son, and now you want to talk. I know I should have told you. Should have? The wine bottle clinked hard against the glass. You watched me build a relationship with Liam. You watched Natalia systematically destroy it. And you said nothing. It wasn't that simple. Stop saying that. The glass slammed down on the counter. It was exactly that simple. You chose money and status over honesty, over me. Shane ran his hands through his hair. What do you want me to say? That I was a coward? Fine, I was a coward. I still am. At least you're finally being honest. Kendall, please. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Whatever you're planning to do with that recording, you mean like what Natalia's been doing to me for years, manipulating, threatening. This is different. Why? Because it's happening to you. The doorbell rang. Through the glass, I saw Liam standing on our porch. Shane's face went pale. "Don't," he whispered. I opened the door. Liam stood there in his honeymoon clothes, looking uncertain. "Can we talk?" he asked. I stepped aside to let him in. He noticed Shane and frowned. "Dad? What are you doing here?" "I live here," Shane said weakly. "You're supposed to be at the airport with Mom, seeing us off." Liam's eyes narrowed. "What's going on?" I poured another glass of wine, sliding it across the counter to Liam. Interesting choice of words. "Mom." "Don't," Shane warned again. "Don't what?" Liam looked between us. "What's happening?" "Your father and I were just discussing family," I said. Specifically, how far people will go to protect their image of a perfect one. If this is about what I said at the wedding, it's about what everyone's been saying, and not saying, for 25 years. Shane stepped forward. "Kendall, think about what you're doing. Like you thought about what you were doing when you married me without telling me the truth." "What truth?" Liam demanded. The moment hung there, heavy with 2 decades of lies. I looked at Liam, really looked at him. The shape of his eyes, the set of his jaw. None of it was Shane's. "Your mother came to see me today," I said finally, "to clear the air about the wedding." "She told me she was going to apologize," Liam said, "for how things got out of hand." I laughed. "Is that what she called it? Things getting out of hand?" "Kendall," Shane pleaded. "No." I turned to Liam. "You want to know why your mother has spent 15 years making sure you never got too close to me? Why she's been so desperate to maintain control?" "Stop," Shane said, but his voice was weak. "Because she's been protecting her biggest lie." I pulled out my phone. "Want to hear it?" "Don't do this," Shane whispered. Liam's face had gone still. "Play it." I pressed play. Natalia's voice filled the kitchen, confessing everything. Shane's face crumpled as his own voice joined in, admitting to the decades-long deception. When it finished, Liam didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at his glass of wine. "Liam," Shane started. "Don't." Liam's voice was ice. "Don't touch me. Don't speak to me." "Your mother." "Which one?" Liam laughed, a horrible broken sound. "The one who's been lying to me my whole life, Or the one I publicly humiliated because the first one told me to? He turned to me, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Did you know? Before today? Helen told me this morning. Helen. He shook his head. The crazy aunt who isn't actually my aunt. Because nothing in my life is what I thought it was. Son. Shane reached for him. I said, don't touch me. Liam knocked the wineglass over, red liquid spreading across the counter like blood. I need to. He stumbled toward the door. I started to follow, but he held up his hand. Don't. Please, I need time. The door slammed behind him. Shane slumped against the counter, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Are you happy now? He asked. Happy? I stared at the spilled wine. No, but at least I'm not lying anymore. My phone buzzed. Natalia calling. I declined it, watching as text messages started flooding in. Threats, probably. Please. Too little. Too late. He'll never forgive any of us, Shane said. Maybe not, I agreed, but at least now he can make that choice based on the truth. I left Shane in the kitchen with his scotch and guilt, heading upstairs to pack a bag. I couldn't stay here tonight, watching the family I thought I had dissolve in a pool of decades-old lies. The truth was out. Now we all had to live with the consequences. 3 days after the revelation, I was wiping down tables at my restaurant when Bianca walked in. She looked exhausted, still in her honeymoon clothes. We came back early, she said, sliding into a booth. Liam couldn't pretend everything was normal. I poured her a cup of coffee. How is he? Destroyed. She wrapped her hands around the mug. He spent 2 days just staring at old family photos, like he was trying to see the lies in them. I'm sorry. Are you? Her eyes met mine. Really? I'm sorry he's hurting. I'm not sorry for telling the truth. Jade emerged from the kitchen, stopping short when she saw Bianca. Oh, I'll come back. Stay, Bianca said. I actually wanted to talk to both of you. Jade sat beside me, her hand finding mine under the table. Natalia showed up at our hotel this morning, Bianca continued. She was different, broken. She told Liam everything. Everything? About Michael, his real father, about the arrangement with Shane, about how she's been... Bianca paused, choosing her words carefully, manipulating things, with you. My throat tightened. Did she tell him why? She said she was terrified of losing him, that watching you become his mother figure made her crazy with jealousy. Bianca took a sip of coffee. She admitted to poisoning him against you, said she'd been doing it since you married Shane. I knew that part, I said quietly. But did you know Liam used to cry himself to sleep after she told him he couldn't call you Mom anymore? That she threatened to send him to boarding school if he got too close to you? The pain was fresh again, sharp as broken glass. No. He told me everything last night. How much he loved you, how confused he was when his mother kept telling him you were trying to steal him away. Bianca's voice cracked. He said the wedding speech was her idea. She told him it would prove his loyalty once and for all. Jesus, Jade whispered. Where is he now? I asked. At Helen's, actually. She's been helpful, filling in the blanks. My phone buzzed. Another text from Shane. I'd been staying at Jade's, ignoring his messages. He's been calling Liam too, Bianca said, noticing. Liam won't answer. Can you blame him? No. She straightened up. But that's not why I'm here. The wedding reception, the real one, is tomorrow night. I blinked. What? The country club event. The one Natalia planned for all their society friends who couldn't make it to the actual wedding. Her smile was bitter. She's been reminding everyone about it all year. Surely she's cancelling it. She can't. Too many important people coming. Family reputation to maintain. Bianca's voice dripped sarcasm. But Liam wants you there. Me? Why? Because he's giving a speech, a real one this time. She stood up, dropping a business card on the table. That's the address, 7 o'clock. Bianca, I called as she reached the door. Why are you doing this? She turned back. Because I love him. And because I've spent the last 3 days watching him realize his whole life was built on lies, except for you. You were the only real thing in it. After she left, Jade picked up the business card. Are you going? I don't know. I stared at my phone, at Shane's unanswered messages. Should I? What does your heart say? My heart? I laughed humorlessly. My heart is still trying to process everything. Then process this, Jade said firmly. That boy is drowning in lies and betrayal. He needs something real to hold on to. I'm the one who blew his world apart. No, honey, you're the one who finally let the truth in. My phone buzzed again, Natalia this time. The text was short. Please come tomorrow. Let him say what he needs to say. It could be another trap, I said. Could be, Jade agreed, but it could also be a chance for healing. I thought about Liam as a child, crawling into my bed during storms, about teaching him to cook in this very kitchen, about all the love I'd given freely, never expecting anything in return. If I go, I said slowly, will you come with me? Try and stop me. Jade squeezed my hand. Besides, someone needs to keep you from dumping wine on Natalia's designer dress. That was one time. The Christmas party of 2019, I remember it well. We laughed, and for a moment, the weight lifted. Then my phone buzzed one more time. A text from Liam himself, the first since that night in my kitchen. I understand if you don't come tomorrow, but I hope you do. I have things I need to say. Things I should have said years ago. I showed Jade the message. Well, she said, looks like we need to find you something to wear. I nodded, my heart racing. Tomorrow night I'd walk back into the lion's den. But this time, I wouldn't be walking in blind. This time, I had the truth on my side. The country club ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and old money. Jade and I stood at the entrance, my heart pounding beneath my emerald silk dress. You can still back out, Jade whispered. No, I said, watching Natalia flit between guests in a designer gown. I can't. We made our way inside. The whispers started immediately. The society wives who'd witnessed my humiliation at the wedding couldn't believe I'd shown my face again. Kendall. Helen appeared beside me, champagne in hand. You came. Is Liam here? Getting ready in the library. He's... She paused. Different. Stronger, maybe. Shane materialized from the crowd, stopping short when he saw me. He looked haggard, his usual polish dulled by days of guilt and scotch. You look beautiful, he said quietly. Don't, I warned. Kendall, please, we need to... Ladies and gentlemen, the event coordinator's voice cut through the tension. Please take your seats for dinner. I ended up at a table with Jade and Helen, as far from Shane as possible. Natalia sat at the head table, her perfect mask showing cracks around the edges. Bianca sat beside her, back straight, eyes forward. Where's Liam? Someone whispered loudly. As if on cue, he appeared at the microphone. The room fell silent. I know you're all expecting another wedding speech, he began, his voice steady. But this isn't that kind of night. Natalia's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. 3 days ago, I learned that my entire life was built on lies. His words cut through the room like a knife. I learned that the man I called father isn't my biological father, that my mother orchestrated a decades-long deception to maintain her social standing. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Shane stared at his plate. Natalia's face had gone white. But that's not the worst part, Liam continued. The worst part is what those lies made me do, what they made me become. His eyes found mine across the room. Kendall, he said, and my heart stopped. When I was 10 years old, you came into my life. You taught me to cook. You helped me with my science projects. You showed up to every game, every performance, every moment that mattered. Tears pricked at my eyes. And I repaid that love with cruelty, his voice cracked, because my mother, my biological mother, convinced me that your love was a threat, that I had to choose between you and her. Natalia stood up, swaying slightly. Liam, please. No, Mom, You don't get to stop this, not anymore. He turned back to me. At my wedding, I said things that can never be unsaid. I hurt you in ways I can never fully repair. And I did it because I was too weak, too afraid to stand up to the lies I'd been fed my whole life. The room was dead silent now, every eye either on Liam or me. I don't expect forgiveness, he continued. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that you were the mother I needed. The mother who loved me without conditions, without manipulation, without agenda. And I threw that love away because I was too blind to see the truth. Jade squeezed my hand under the table as tears rolled down my cheeks. To everyone here tonight, Liam's voice strengthened. You came expecting to celebrate a perfect family. But perfection built on lies isn't perfection at all. It's just another lie. He stepped away from the microphone, then stopped and turned back. Kendall, he said, his voice raw. I'm sorry for everything, and... He swallowed hard. I love you, Mom. The room erupted in whispers. Natalia collapsed back into her chair. Shane was openly crying now. Liam walked straight to our table. Without a word, he knelt beside my chair. I understand if you can't forgive me, he whispered, but please know that every word was true. I pulled him into my arms, feeling him shake with silent sobs. I forgive you, I whispered back. I forgave you the moment you were born. Around us, the perfect society event dissolved into chaos. Guests whispered and pointed. Someone dropped a glass. Natalia fled the room, Bianca following close behind, but none of it mattered. All that mattered was this moment, this truth, this love that had survived years of lies and manipulation. What happens now? Liam asked, pulling back to look at me. Now? I smiled through my tears. Now we start over. No more lies, no more perfect facades. Just truth. And family, he added. Real family. Helen raised her champagne glass. To truth, she said loudly, and to the death of perfect lies. One by one, other glasses raised. Jade's, mine, Liam's, even Shane's from across the room. The perfect society wedding reception had become something else entirely. A moment of raw, honest redemption. As Liam sat down beside me, taking my hand in his, I realized something profound. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destruction at all. Sometimes it's simply letting the truth be heard. The morning after the reception, I was in my restaurant's kitchen, stress-baking bread when Natalia walked in. She looked different. No designer clothes, no perfect makeup, just a woman worn down by her own lies. Your staff let me in, she said quietly. I kept kneading the dough. What do you want, Natalia? To talk, please. I nodded toward the prep counter. She perched awkwardly on a stool, looking out of place among the industrial appliances. I've never been in your kitchen before, she said. You made it clear this was beneath you. I made a lot of things clear that weren't true. She watched me work the dough. Did you know I can't cook? Not a single thing. My mother said it wasn't necessary for someone of our status. Is that supposed to make me feel sorry for you? No. She twisted her wedding ring. Nothing could make up for what I've done. The back door opened and Liam walked in, stopping short when he saw his mother. I can come back, he said. Stay, I told him. Your mother was just explaining herself. He moved to stand beside me, automatically reaching for an apron. I'd taught him years ago how to tie it properly. You know how to bake? Natalia asked, surprised. Kendall taught me when I was 12. He began measuring ingredients for the next batch. Remember that summer I said I was at soccer camp? I was here instead, learning to make croissants. Natalia's face crumpled. More lies. You taught me well, Liam said coldly. I deserve that. You deserve worse. He slammed the measuring cup down. Do you know what it's like to realize your whole life was orchestrated? That every time I pulled away from Kendall, every time I hurt her, I was just playing my part in your script. I was trying to protect you. From what? Love? Acceptance? Someone who actually saw me as more than an accessory to their perfect life? The kitchen door swung open again. This time it was Bianca. I thought I'd find you both here, she said. The lawyers are waiting. My hand stilled. Lawyers? For the annulment, Bianca explained. We're having the marriage annulled, starting fresh, on honest ground this time. You don't have to do that, Natalia protested. Yes, we do. Liam wiped flour from his hands. Everything about that wedding was built on lies. The speech you made me give, the way you orchestrated every detail to maintain your image, the way you tried to make Bianca feel as inadequate as you made me feel, I added. Natalia flinched. I never meant... Yes, you did, Bianca cut in. But it didn't work, because Liam and I, we're real, unlike everything you created. When's the new wedding? I asked. 3 months, Liam said. Small ceremony. No society pages, no country club. Just family. Real family. He looked at me meaningfully. My heart swelled. And me? Natalia's voice was small. Will I be invited? That depends, Liam said. Are you ready to be real? To stop manipulating and controlling? To accept that Kendall is as much my mother as you are, maybe more? Tears spilled down Natalia's cheeks. I don't know how to be real anymore. Then learn, Bianca said firmly. Get therapy. Deal with whatever made you need control so badly that you destroyed everyone around you. Starting with telling Michael the truth, Liam added. My real father deserves to know. Natalia nodded slowly. He's in Seattle now. I found him last night. Good. Liam turned back to the bread dough. That's a start. The lawyers are waiting, Bianca reminded him gently. He looked at me. Will you come with us? Of course. Natalia stood, smoothing her wrinkled clothes. I should go. Mum, Liam called as she reached the door. She turned, hope flickering across her face. When you're ready, really ready, to be honest, to be real, call me. She nodded, tears falling freely now, and left. Are you okay? I asked Liam. He looked at the half-kneaded dough, at Bianca, at me. No, but I will be. We all will be. The bread can wait, I said, untying my apron. Actually, Bianca smiled. Could you teach me? After the lawyers, I mean. Liam talks about your baking lessons like they were magic. They were, Liam said softly. They still are. I hugged them both, flour dust and all. Then we'll make magic together. A fresh start, with honest ingredients. As we headed to meet the lawyers, I thought about how revenge had transformed into something else entirely. Not the destruction of a perfect facade, but the building of something real in its place. Something made of truth and love, and maybe even a little bit of magic. Just like my bread. The autumn breeze carried the scent of fresh bread through my restaurant's open windows as I arranged flowers on the tables. Simple wildflowers. Bianca's choice this time, not Natalia's. Need help? Shane stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. You can start with the centerpieces. I handed him a vase. Just don't expect me to forget everything because you're helping with wedding preparations. I wouldn't dream of it. He placed the flowers carefully. The divorce papers came through yesterday. I know, Helen told me. Are you happy? I paused, considering. I'm free. That's better than happy. The kitchen door swung open and Liam emerged, flour dusting his chef's whites. The bread's done. Bianca's finishing the last batch of pastries. You taught her well, Shane said. Kendall taught us both well, Liam corrected. The door chimed and Natalia walked in, looking different than she had 3 months ago. Simpler, more human. The therapist said I should come, she said. If that's okay. I nodded. There's bread that needs slicing in the kitchen. She hesitated, then rolled up her sleeves and disappeared through the swinging door. That's new, Shane commented. She's trying, Liam said. Actually trying, not just performing. Helen burst in, arms full of fairy lights. The garden's ready. Jade's supervising the setup. A garden wedding, Shane mused. Not exactly the society pages. That's the point, Liam said. Real, not perfect. I watched through the kitchen window as Natalia awkwardly sliced bread, Bianca gently correcting her technique. No designer clothes, no perfect makeup, just two women finding their way to something authentic. I should check on them, Liam said, heading back to the kitchen. He's happy, Shane observed. Really happy, not just playing the part. Because he's finally free to be himself. Thanks to you. No, I corrected. Thanks to truth. The afternoon flowed into evening. Guests arrived, not society figures this time, but real friends, real family. The garden glowed with fairy lights as Liam and Bianca exchanged honest vows under a canopy of stars. During the reception, held in my restaurant, Natalia approached my table. The bread is perfect, she said. I never knew. I never let myself know how much work goes into creating something real. It's never too late to learn, she nodded. Michael, Liam's father, he's coming next week. To meet him properly. How do you feel about that? Terrified, relieved, like maybe I can finally stop pretending. The music changed, and Liam appeared beside us. Mom, he said, looking at me. Dance with me? As we swayed under the fairy lights, I saw Shane and Helen talking quietly in a corner. Natalia teaching Bianca's young cousin how to properly hold a bread knife, Jade directing the catering staff with her usual efficiency. Thank you, Liam said suddenly. For what? For not giving up on me. For showing me what real love looks like. He smiled. For teaching me that perfect isn't the same as true. Speaking of true, I nodded toward the door where a tall man had just walked in, looking nervous. I think that's Michael. Liam tensed, then relaxed. Would you come with me? To meet him? Are you sure? Natalia is learning to share. He squeezed my hand. I have room in my heart for all my parents, the ones who gave me life, and the one who taught me how to live it. We walked together toward Michael, toward truth, toward whatever came next. Behind us, the fairy lights twinkled, the bread filled the air with warmth, and love, real love, filled every corner of the room. Ready? I asked. Liam took a deep breath. Ready. As we approached Michael, I realized something profound. Revenge hadn't destroyed this family. It had transformed it. Like bread dough under gentle hands, it had been kneaded and shaped into something new, something real. Not perfect, not flawless, but true. And in the end, that was better than any revenge could ever be. Hi, Liam said to Michael. I'm your son. Michael's eyes filled with tears. I know, he said. I've always known. I started to step away, but Liam held on to my hand. And this, he said proudly, is my mum. Around us, the wedding celebration continued, not a performance this time, but a genuine celebration of love in all its imperfect, beautiful forms. The revenge I'd sought had given way to something far more powerful, the truth that had set us all free.
I'm Abigail. I imagined I would live a simple life, typical of any housewife you might encounter anywhere. However, life had other plans for me. In just a little over a year, everything has changed dramatically. The new house I once lived in is no longer mine. The company I worked for has disappeared, replaced by the foundations of another building. Now, I find myself living alone, over 150 miles away from where I used to call home. At 46 years old, my life has taken a turn that I never anticipated. Many women my age might be relishing their newfound freedom as their children grow independent, or might be delighting in the joys of becoming grandparents. Some might even be enjoying the peace of solitude to its fullest. However, my path has been quite different. I was once part of a junior account manager that my ex-husband, Owen, took over from his father after his passing, 10 years into our marriage. Owen was only 32 then, but he was ready to steer the company forward. I had been in another long-term job, but resigned to join him in running the family business. It felt natural to support each other as a married couple, and there was no hesitation on my part. I had watched Owen put immense effort into the business, and it inspired me. Let's work together from now on, we decided, launching our journey as a united team. We were a small team, just 7 employees and 2 part-timers, making us 11 in total. Under Owen's leadership, the business flourished modestly but steadily. We expanded our client base beyond what my father-in-law had established and even took on small jobs within our community, all of which contributed to our growth. Despite the business doing well, Owen and I faced a personal challenge we were unable to conceive. The issue was mutual, yet treatable, we were told. Despite our best efforts and the treatments we underwent, success eluded us. Reflecting on all these changes, my life is very different now. The pain and upheaval have strangely cleared and refreshed my mind. I still grapple with how exactly everything unraveled, but here I am, continuing forward, reshaping my life one day at a time. From the age of 27 to 36, my husband Owen and I waited for the stork that never arrived. After a decade of fruitless waiting, we both agreed at 36 to stop the fertility treatments. We chose to find happiness, just the two of us, accepting our reality. Owen was supportive, and though it was a difficult decision for me too, I had come to terms with it. Yet, despite our resolution, my mother-in-law, Madison, found it hard to accept. "You can't give my son a grandchild. What about an heir? How can you be the reason my son isn't a father? Shame on you for failing your duties as a woman," she would say, adding to my pain. Initially, Madison and I had a warm relationship. She couldn't have a daughter herself and saw me as the daughter she never had. She was sweet and caring at first. However, our relationship soured when I began infertility treatments. "Why does having a baby cost so much money?" she would complain. At the time, such treatments weren't covered by insurance and were indeed expensive. Madison, to put it mildly, was frugal and cautious, or to be blunt, stingy. This was why she objected to us spending thousands on the treatments. She even pressured me, saying that if we were spending so much, it better result in a boy. When she learned we were stopping the treatments, she was furious, demanding I get a divorce and leave, branding me a social misfit and an unfit woman. If not for Owen's presence and support, I shudder to think what could have happened. Despite everything, Owen never brought up divorce. "Keep up the good work at the company," he would say, relying on me to continue performing well. Our marriage remained strong, but a particular incident changed everything. One day, Owen came home from work, excitedly showing me a flyer for a newly built house. "Look at this. Only a 27-minute drive to the shopping center, 4 bedrooms, a big yard, and a 3-car garage. It's a pretty nice house." Despite its great location and perfect size, the real estate company was struggling to find a buyer. Owen was intrigued by why such an ideal house was having trouble selling. His curiosity led us to explore this new opportunity, marking another unexpected twist in our lives. We found a charming house that seemed perfect for us. "Hey honey, let's buy this house," Owen suggested excitedly. Although I loved the idea, I was concerned about securing a good mortgage at our age. "I'll check with the bank tomorrow," Owen reassured me. "The monthly payments will be tough, but our business is stable. I'm confident we can manage it." True enough, the loan payments would stretch our budget, but Owen was enthusiastic. He believed it was a worthwhile sacrifice for a home we could enjoy peacefully for years to come. It was an exciting prospect to finally own our place after years of renting. Once we made up our minds, everything seemed to fall into place quickly. Owen spoke with the bank and, thanks to his excellent credit score, secured a 12-year mortgage. Considering his age, it was the best option available. "I leave the household finances to you as before," he told me, trusting in my ability to manage our expenses. I focused my efforts on boosting the company's sales to ensure we could keep up with the mortgage payments. With determined spirits, we became homeowners. However, just as we settled into our new home, a global pandemic caused by an infectious virus erupted, severely impacting us. Our business partners were forced to close their offices, causing our business to plummet. With less work, we found ourselves staying home more often. We remained patient, discussing strategies to weather the storm. But one day, as I opened the door, I was surprised to find my mother-in-law, Madison, on our doorstep. She had traveled for an hour by train to visit us, despite recommendations to avoid unnecessary outings. "It's so hard to breathe wearing this mask all the time," she complained upon arriving. Since moving to our new home, Madison had begun visiting more frequently. Her visits became even more regular after the stay-at-home advisories were issued. "Madison, in these times, I don't think it's safe for you to visit us so often." I expressed my concerns, worried about what the neighbors might think and about our health. Despite the global crisis that encouraged staying indoors, Madison seemed unfazed by the potential risks, showing little concern for the health guidelines that the rest of the country and indeed the world, was trying to follow. Madison completely ignored my concerns. "What did you say?" "I came to check on you guys because I was worried," she retorted, taking offense at my cautionary words. Then, turning to Owen, she repeated my words verbatim, ensuring he heard every detail. Owen's reaction took me by surprise. "I can't believe you said that, Abigail. That's terrible. How could you speak to my mom like that?" "She came all the way here because she was concerned about us," he exclaimed, raising his voice. In our 22 years of marriage, Owen had never reacted like this. He had always been the mediator in any disagreements, often taking my side. The company's sales were suffering severely, and the future looked bleak, especially after we had just committed to a new home. I knew Owen was under immense stress due to our financial instability, but I didn't expect him to turn against me so sharply. Madison seized the moment to assert her stance. "That's right. I care about this family, but your attitude, Abigail, is unacceptable," she chided, enjoying the opportunity to scold me. Then Owen said something that shocked me further. "Mom, you're the kindest person I know. I'm not sure about the future of my marriage with Abigail. If the company fails, we won't be able to afford the mortgage. It keeps me up at night, but she's so indifferent. Don't worry, I will take care of it," Madison reassured him, her tone soothing yet patronizing. "Thanks, Mom," Owen replied gratefully, his demeanor more like that of a child than a grown man. His words left me bewildered and deeply uncomfortable, reminding me of a comedic skit about a man overly attached to his mother. From that moment, Owen seemed utterly influenced by Madison. She began visiting every day and announced, always sticking close to Owen, reinforcing the idea that true family loyalty lies only with blood relatives. "Yes, that's right, Mom. With your support, I feel I can handle anything," Owen would say, their bond appearing unnervingly close, almost as if they were dismissing me from the family equation. Madison's influence grew stronger with each visit, her presence as pervasive and unwelcome as a virus, slowly embedding herself into every aspect of our lives. As time passed, it seemed as though Madison's influence had deeply affected Owen. He still appreciated the practical aspects of our house, like its proximity to the supermarket and hospital. "Oh, Abigail, I'm going to take a shower soon. Please put out my underwear and towel," he called out one evening, as if Madison hadn't become a near-permanent fixture in our home, dictating changes at her whim. Madison, now acting as though she owned the place, had no reservations about expressing her needs. "Let's put a handrail on the stairs. It's hard to go up and down," she suggested one day, and Owen immediately agreed. Her demands didn't stop there. "The step in the shower is a tripping hazard. It should be removed. And why is there only one bathroom on the first floor? It would be better to have one on the second floor too," she declared, listing her demands without a hint of humility. Each of her proposals was made triumphantly, as if the financial strain of the mortgage and our dwindling business income were non-issues. When I expressed reluctance about the unnecessary renovations, both Madison and Owen turned on me. "What nonsense are you talking about? This is my house now. I deserve to live comfortably," Madison asserted brazenly. "Excuse me, but I don't appreciate inconsiderate people. Do you even know your place here? You're nothing more than an ornament in this house," she snapped, reducing me to a mere decoration. Confused and hurt, I turned to Owen for some support, only to be met with further disillusionment. "Abigail, you don't understand how I feel. If we had had a child, I'm sure life would be brighter now. This pandemic has hit our business hard. If I were stuck at home alone with you, I'd go mad. You don't even try to understand me. You just exist here as a so-called wife," he accused, his words filled with resentment. "Are you saying this is all my fault?" I asked, stunned by his harshness. "Yes, it is. I'm only getting by because my mom's here," Owen retorted. Madison had mastered manipulating Owen so well. She might as well have been a cult leader, using her maternal influence to keep him under her control. "If you don't like it here, then leave," Madison's final ultimatum echoed coldly, a stark reminder of her control over both the household and Owen's perceptions. This was no longer the home I had envisioned. It had become a battleground of wills, with me cast as the outsider. Owen's disdain was clear as he stood and pointed toward the front door, while Madison reclined on the sofa, exuding an air of royalty. "You know, Abigail, you should be kinder to your husband and his mother. Maybe that's why you couldn't have a baby," she said with a sharp tone, her words cutting deep. Her cruel remark was a heavy blow to my heart, which had been barely holding on amidst the turmoil. That night, for the first time, I cried until I had no tears left. The following days were no easier. No matter how many times I wiped my eyes, the weight of sorrow remained, pressing heavily upon my chest. As the tears finally ceased and I regained my composure, a firm resolution took shape within me. "I'm leaving. Won't you regret this?" I challenged Owen, but he only scoffed in response. That was the moment I decided it was time to move on. "I'm ready to say goodbye," I declared, feeling as if I had transformed into a warrior. I quickly packed my bags and left the house without looking back. "I will never work for your company again," I announced as I headed out. Madison stood by the door, watching me leave. "Don't ever come back," she sneered, handing me a manila envelope as a parting gift. Inside, I found a document that brought a wry smile to my face. It detailed the financial responsibilities Owen would now face alone. I acknowledged her with a slight, graceful nod, the gesture belying the strength I felt inside. Thankfully, I had my savings and an inheritance from my parents who had passed away 10 years earlier. These resources allowed me to secure a new place to live and gave me time to contemplate my next steps. Just a few months after I left, Owen appeared at my new doorstep, panic etched across his face. "Hey, what have you done?" he blurted out, his voice tinged with desperation. "What are you talking about?" I asked, a smirk hidden within my calm exterior. He was visibly distressed, having noticeably lost weight and aged significantly. "Why do I have $2,500 in loan repayment every month? You never told me," he exclaimed, tears in his eyes. "Look, we agreed to pay off the $400,000 loan in 15 years. Of course, the repayment is that much every month," I explained patiently. "But it was $1,300 until now. Why has it doubled?" He stammered, confused and overwhelmed. "Can you use your brain sometimes?" I retorted, my patience wearing thin. Owen's decision to side with his mother over his wife had led to his current predicament, and now he was facing the consequences of those choices alone. "Why should I keep paying the mortgage for a house I no longer live in? Do you really think it's normal for me to bear these costs just because I'm your wife?" I questioned Owen, incredulous at his assumptions. It seemed he might have confused the role of a wife with that of a servant. Despite my frustrations, I listened as he explained the dire state of our business. "The orders have completely stopped. Last month, I hardly received any, and even some of our long-standing clients have severed ties," he confessed, the stress evident in his voice. "Of those were the clients from the shopping center by the station, right?" I asked knowingly. "Yes, how did you know?" Owen was puzzled. I wasn't surprised. "Those clients called me personally to apologize and explain why they could no longer use our services," I told him, hiding a bitter smile as they had cited a rather personal reason for their withdrawal. Owen was baffled. "And what reason did they give?" "They felt pity that your business was being ruined by your own mother," I revealed. The truth was, Madison had been bad-mouthing me around town at the supermarket, the hospital, anywhere she could. Her behavior was reckless and inappropriate, especially during the pandemic when discretion and decorum were crucial. She didn't hesitate to slander me loudly or to intrude into neighbors' homes for idle gossip. Her actions had not only sabotaged personal relationships but had also severely damaged the company's reputation. "A man who ousts his supportive wife to protect his irrational mother can hardly be trusted," I explained. "Our clients and even our employees see that now." Indeed, the fallout was severe. The client who had confided in me had taken my insights seriously, deciding to cut off all business dealings with Owen. Furthermore, the situation within the company had become dire. Employees are leaving one after another. We're short-staffed and struggling to find new clients. The company is teetering on the brink of collapse, Owen admitted, despair in his tone. The employees had their own lives and careers to consider, and understandably, they didn't want to go down with a sinking ship. Feeling a mix of emotions, I chose to step back from causing further damage. Several employees had sought my advice about resigning, but I decided to keep quiet, not wanting to exacerbate Owen's predicament any further. Despite everything, I felt it was hopeless to try to intervene any more deeply. One of the employees confided in me that they couldn't envision continuing under a boss who would dismiss his wife simply to please his overbearing mother. It seemed clear that sharing this detail with Owen wasn't necessary. It would only add to the tension. What am I going to do? What should I do now? Owen was frantic, genuinely at a loss. Honestly, I have no idea. I responded, my tone neutral. You claim you've done nothing wrong, yet things are only getting worse. Why do you think that is? If I haven't done anything wrong, why can't things just work out? He repeated, growing impatient and agitated with each question. How can you act like this doesn't involve you? What a heartless woman you are, abandoning your husband in such times, he accused, his voice laced with bitterness. That was the final straw. My patience with his self-centered and insensitive demeanor had reached its limit. Who made me such a heartless wife? I retorted sharply. Wasn't it you and your mother who turned me into your enemy? Did you really think I'd always stand by you, no matter what? You're clueless, just like your employees. I'm not going down with you, I declared firmly. Then, I revealed something I had kept hidden, a petition for divorce. I'm finally going to file this, I announced, showing him the document that Madison, in a twisted turn of events, had given me as a parting gift. How did you get that? Owen stammered, taken aback. Your mother gave it to me, I replied, the irony not lost on me. I actually appreciate her for this. She unwittingly gave me an ace in the hole. Wait, I wrote that as a joke. I didn't mean it, he pleaded, but his lamentations fell on deaf ears. With that piece of paper, our relationship was officially over. We were strangers now. Eventually, Owen had to let go of the company. He couldn't manage the mortgage payments and the accumulating debts. Even after selling the house, the funds were insufficient, and he found himself laboring to repay the remaining loans. His relationship with his mother also crumbled. Once he emerged from her manipulative influence, he blamed her vehemently. My life is ruined because of you. If it weren't for you, you witch. He shouted during their heated arguments. How dare you call me that? I'm your mother, Madison retorted, stunned by his accusations. Because of you, I lost Abigail and my company. You're a witch, Owen continued, his anger unrelenting. What are you talking about? You disliked her too. It's not just my fault. You should have controlled her better, Madison fired back. They bickered loudly every night, causing disturbances in the neighborhood. They blamed each other, yet they were mirror images of one another in their selfishness and denial. Eventually, they stopped communicating altogether, and Madison was shocked when her only son cut her off completely. Their downfall was steeped in their inability to see beyond their own flaws and failings. After leaving Owen, I heard that Madison had become increasingly isolated, living alone in her apartment, seemingly devoid of spirit. I couldn't help but wonder if she felt any remorse for her actions, or if she had become so detached that she no longer understood the consequences of her behavior. Meanwhile, I found myself in a much different situation. I once helped an ex-employee from Owen's company secure a new job. I would have been lost without you. Thank you so much, he had said to me, grateful for the assistance. That's not true, I had replied modestly. I simply pointed you towards a company looking for someone with your qualifications. He was curious about my knowledge in recruitment. Before I joined Owen, I worked for HR director firm. It's been 12 years since I got certified, and I never imagined it would come in so handy, I explained. Now, I was working as a sales consultant, helping clients navigate their job searches, but my role extended beyond just that. Many of my clients were in dire straits for various reasons. For instance, one woman came to me saying, I'm a housewife, but my husband is having an affair. I can't go on like this. I need to find a job and become independent. Stories like hers were not uncommon. My job involved working closely with clients to explore their options and determine the best path forward. As a consultant, my duty was to listen empathetically to their stories, aligning closely with their thoughts and feelings. Even though, as a middle-aged woman who had been through so much, there was a part of me that wanted to just tell them, get a divorce, you'll feel so much better like me. After being kicked out by my husband of 22 years, losing my job, and going through a divorce, some might view me as a pitiable figure, but I didn't feel sad at all. In fact, I felt happy. The reason? I was finally listening to myself. I'm going to start a new life, I told myself confidently. I have clients who appreciate what I do, and that gives my life new meaning. This fresh start was not just about survival, but about rediscovering my worth and helping others find theirs too.
Stella's heart sank as Madeline's cold words cut through the silence of the dinner celebrating her pregnancy. Her face drained of color as she met the disdainful gaze of her mother-in-law. Madeline's voice was harsh with judgment. Pregnant again? Another girl, I presume? When will you give my son the heir he deserves? Beside Stella, Walker shifted uncomfortably but remained silent. The dinner, meant to be a joyous occasion, had turned into a spectacle of humiliation at the hands of Madeline, who dismissed Walker's timid protests with a wave of her hand. Don't mother me, Walker. You're just as weak as your father. If you can't manage your wife, she'll just keep having girls, those disappointing placeholders. Tears threatened to spill from Stella's eyes as she defended her daughter, Daisy, who was not a placeholder but a cherished part of their family. Daisy is our beloved daughter, and we don't yet know the baby's gender, Stella countered, only to be met with Madeline's scornful laughter. Given your track record, it's obviously another girl. You're a complete failure at this. Shaken by Madeline's venomous words, Stella excused herself from the table, needing to escape before she broke down completely. Outside, she gulped the cool night air, her cheeks wet with tears. How could Madeline be so cruel? The footsteps sounded, and Stella braced herself for more harsh words, but it was Walker, his expression sad and apologetic. Stella, I'm so sorry. She's totally out of line, he whispered, taking her hand. Yet, as Stella listened to Walker's feeble excuses, her frustration grew. She had endured 8 years of Madeline's cruel remarks and realized Walker might never confront his mother. Disillusioned, she saw the grim reality of their marriage and Madeline's unyielding influence. Resigned, Stella returned inside, leaving Walker alone with his justifications. As she re-entered the kitchen, Madeline, smoothing her silk blouse with a smirk, dropped a bombshell. I have news that might interest you. Concerned about the family legacy, I introduced Walker to a young woman, Alina. She's capable of giving him the son he needs. Stella was aghast. Madeline had brazenly sought to replace her in her own marriage. The audacity and sheer malice of the act left Stella speechless and seething. You brought another woman into our marriage, she managed to say, her voice thick with disbelief. Madeline's response was dismissive. Don't be so dramatic, she scoffed, confirming the depths of her cruel intentions. Stella realized then that her struggle against Madeline's tyranny was far from over, but now, she knew the battle lines were drawn not just around her marriage but around her very dignity and place in the family. Madeline's heartless words landed like physical blows. I'm doing what's best for my son's future. Clearly, you're not capable of that, she declared with casual cruelty that was shocking in its lack of empathy. Overcome with outrage, I couldn't hold back any longer. You cruel, manipulative witch! I yelled, my anger boiling over. Does Walker even know about this disgusting plan of yours? At that moment, Walker entered the room, awkwardly accompanied by a strikingly dressed woman I assumed was Alina. The guilty look on Walker's face confirmed my worst fears. You allowed this? Your mother brought another woman into our marriage to have your child? I stammered, my world spinning. Walker avoided my gaze. Stella, we've talked about the importance of continuing the family line, he muttered. Enraged by his passivity, I shouted back, unable to care about the harshness of my words. So you're just letting your mother sell you out to the first bidder to get what she wants? Alina looked taken aback by my outburst, but Walker met my gaze with a newfound hardness, echoing his mother's callousness. This is for the greater good, Stella. If you were fulfilling your duties, we wouldn't need to go to these extremes, he said coldly, his words pierced through me like icy daggers. This betrayal, supported enthusiastically by his mother, was the ultimate humiliation. Madeline laughed at my shock, her cruelty unabated. Don't worry, dear. Once Alina has done her part, you can focus on our granddaughter. We wouldn't want you feeling utterly useless. Her mocking was the last straw. With a primal cry, I picked up a heavy ceramic vase and threw it with all my strength. It hit Madeline squarely, breaking upon impact and sending shards and blood scattering. Alina screamed as Madeline fell, clutching her face in agony. As the dust settled, Walker's face was a mixture of shock and horror. In that unrestrained moment, I knew my marriage was irreparably damaged. There was no coming back from this betrayal. Madeline's manipulations had torn through the fabric of our lives, leaving nothing but a desire for retribution. As Madeline's cries waned, I stood defiantly, my fists clenched, staring down at the figure of my monstrous mother-in-law on the kitchen floor. Walker's look of shock was matched by Alina's fear as she realized the severity of the situation. You're insane. Madeline finally gasped, her voice thick with pain and anger. This is my home, I shot back, the fury surging within me once more. The home I built with my husband, whom you're trying to sell off like some common gigolo. Madeline tried to respond, but I silenced her with a stern hand. Don't even bother denying it, you wicked old witch. I heard everything. How you shamelessly brought this woman into our marriage to undermine your own son. I turned my furious gaze to Walker, who seemed to shrink under the weight of my stare. And you spineless coward, complicit in your mother's twisted schemes. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I'd just play the dutiful wife while you cavorted with someone else? Alina interjected, her voice shrill, her overly done-up face twisting with anger. I am not just some random woman. Your husband pursued me. The chaos of the moment hung heavily in the air, a stark testament to the shattered pieces of what used to be my family. Turned to face the woman with the exaggerated makeup, a sardonic smile creeping across my lips. Oh, did he now? So tell me, when you decided to get involved with a married man, did you think about the family you were helping to tear apart? Alina's mouth opened, but no words came out. It seemed even she could grasp the depravity of her actions in this sordid affair. I turned back to Walker, my voice dripping with disbelief. Unbelievable. I gave you a beautiful child, a loving home, an incredible life, and you were ready to throw it all away for your mother's twisted obsession with lineage. Madeline, already bruising from the vase's impact, tried to sit up, her face contorting with the swell. You have no one to blame but yourself, you were not enough, she hissed. I slammed my fist down on the counter, making everyone jump. I am done with your endless cruelty and manipulation. If having a son is so crucial, then you and Walker can pursue that without me. I marched over to a desk, grabbed a pen and a stack of papers, and thrust a separation agreement at Walker. Here. You want freedom to create your heirs with that surgical nightmare? Take it. Walker, silent and shocked, finally seemed to grasp the gravity of my words. Alina too seemed shaken. Well? I pressed, my teeth clenched. Sign it, and get out. Take your deceitful mother and your ridiculous son Quest and leave. I want you out of my house, out of my life. Slowly, numbly, Walker took the pen. The room was thick with a heavy silence as he signed his name, his hand trembling. His signature sealed the end of our marriage, just as his mother had always intended. Snatching the signed papers from him, our eyes met one last time in a fiercely intense stare. Then, without another word, I turned and walked upstairs, clutching the documents, evidence of my shattered world. The following days were a blur of numbness. Walker, his mother, and Alina left soon after the confrontation. The house that once echoed with warmth and love now lay silent. I wandered through it aimlessly, struggling to comprehend the full scope of my marriage's implosion. Although signing the papers was the right choice following Walker's unforgivable betrayal, the loss felt overwhelming. Our daughter, Daisy, 8 years old and usually so vibrant, sensed the tension. She became quieter, more withdrawn. Mommy, where did Daddy go? She asked one evening, looking up from her barely touched dinner. I was caught off guard, torn between exposing the harsh truth and protecting her innocence. Daddy had to go away for a little while, honey, I said, my voice barely steady. Work things. Daisy frowned, clearly sensing my distress. Are you sad, Mommy? Did you and Daddy have a fight? Her words tugged at my heart. Something like that, baby, I replied, the lump in my throat growing heavier. But everything will be okay, I promise. The lie burned like acid on my tongue because, in that moment, it seemed impossible to see how anything could ever truly be okay again. A sharp knock at the door pulled me from my reverie, causing Daisy to look up, her eyes wide with a hopeful spark. Stay here, sweetie, I said quickly, rising to answer the door with a knot of trepidation in my stomach. But when I opened it, it wasn't Walker who greeted me. Instead, a sharply dressed man in an expensive suit stood there, holding a crisp folder. "Mrs. Reading," he asked brusquely, without any warm introduction. "I'm Mr. Weston, an associate of your husband's." A chill clenched my heart as I sensed the ominous purpose of his visit. This was the beginning of the legal battle, the formal tearing apart of what was left of our marriage. "My firm has prepared these documents for you to review and sign," Mr. Weston continued, all business, as he extended the hefty stack of papers toward me. With a heavy heart, I accepted the folder, dread settling deep within me like a cold stone. This was really happening, the final dissolution of my marriage after Walker's devastating betrayal. As I flipped through the legalese, phrases like petition for dissolution of marriage and division of assets favoring the male issue-bearing party leaped out at me in cruel clarity. My face paled as the full intent of these documents hit me. Walker and his ruthless mother were using their wealth and power to strip me of everything, my home, my life, even my child, in their twisted quest for a male heir. "You have 52 hours to review and sign these terms, Mrs. Reading," Mr. Weston stated flatly. His next words carried a veiled threat that sent shivers down my spine. "After that, my client will pursue more aggressive legal actions if you fail to comply." Flashes of Madeline's past cruelties, the violence, the bloodshed from the vase incident, all raced through my mind, reminding me of the lengths she would go to in order to remove any obstacles to her desires. It was clear now, Walker had sided completely with his malevolent mother, ready to erase me from his life for the sin of not producing a son. A numb, cold realization washed over me. The last vestiges of our marriage were disintegrating into bitter ashes. There would be no more tears, no more desperate attempts to salvage anything from this wreckage. I was on my own, except for Daisy, my innocent little girl watching from the next room. In that stark moment, she became my sole reason to keep fighting. I faced Mr. Weston with a steely expression. "Tell your client that after 52 hours, he can expect to hear from my attorney," I said, my voice a hollow rasp. I was resolved not to let them take my daughter too. With a forceful motion, I shut the door in the lawyer's face and turned back to Daisy. I scooped her up into my arms, holding her close like a life preserver in stormy seas. There would be no surrender, no matter how brutally Walker and Madeline sought to pull us under. For Daisy's sake, I would keep us afloat and make them pay dearly for their monstrous actions. The next 52 hours passed in a whirlwind of grim resolve. I quickly secured the services of Isabel, a formidable divorce attorney known for her aggressive tactics against entitled, wealthy husbands. "This is one of the most egregious cases of marital misconduct I've ever handled," Isabel declared coldly after reviewing the details. "We're going to take them down hard." Her confidence ignited a flicker of hope within me. Next, I started gathering evidence. I combed through financial records and discovered discrepancies. Walker's company had been funneling money into an offshore account for years, actions verging on embezzlement and tax evasion. These findings could serve as crucial leverage in our legal battle. Armed with this information, I prepared to face the storm head-on, determined to protect my daughter and salvage whatever fragments of our lives I could from the wreckage. In anticipation of the fierce legal battle, I arranged for Daisy's temporary relocation to my sister Daisy's home. Daisy, an elementary school teacher living 2 states away, was someone I could trust to care for my daughter while I navigated the stormy waters ahead. As the 52-hour deadline approached, I steeled myself, ready to confront whatever came my way. When Mr. Weston arrived, his demeanor was as cold and dismissive as ever. "I trust you've had ample time to review the terms and come to an amenable decision," he stated flatly. In response, I slid a differently prepared set of divorce papers across the table, the ones meticulously crafted by my lawyer, Isabel. The documents were tailored for maximum impact, every clause tightly negotiated. Mr. Weston's surprise was evident as he quickly scanned the document, his eyebrows knitting together in disapproval. "This is not the agreement we discussed," he remarked, his voice tight. "My client will need to reevaluate these terms." "These are the terms," I replied icily. "I will not be bullied or manipulated." Every betrayal has its consequences. I then pushed across a thick dossier filled with financial documents, watching his face pale as he grasped its implications. Your client's illegal corporate dealings have been meticulously catalogued by top forensic accountants, I added, a sense of vindictive satisfaction coloring my tone. Any attempt to deprive me of my legal rights and claim over my daughter will be met with the full public exposure of these records. I let the threat linger, knowing Walker's ego and concern for his business reputation were his weak spots, traits his mother had exploited repeatedly. Now, I wielded that leverage against them. Maintaining a stoic facade, Mr. Weston studied the documents closely, his jaw twitching almost imperceptibly. I will present this counteroffer to Mr. Weston in full, he finally said, his voice tense, contingent on these materials remaining discreet for now. See that you do, I responded curtly. The meter is running on exposing his criminal liability and shredding his reputation. With a curt nod, Mr. Weston gathered the documents and left, clearly unsettled by the unexpected turn of events. For the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope in reclaiming some portion of my life and dignity from the clutches of Walker and Madeline. But before the legal onslaught began in earnest, I had one crucial task left: ensuring Daisy's safety. I hugged her, fighting back tears at her confused and saddened expression. "Mommy, what's happening?" "I want Daddy to come home," she said with a quiver in her voice. I stroked her hair gently, my heart aching. "I know, baby. But you need to stay with Auntie Daisy for a little while, okay? It's for your safety." Daisy's eyes widened, sensing the seriousness of the situation, but she nodded obediently. As I held her, I silently vowed to protect her well-being at all costs, even if it meant permanently marking her name in the chasm that now divided our family. Though there would be pain and confusion, I hoped that one day she would understand why I had to make these tough choices. With Daisy safely away, the divorce battle erupted with unprecedented ferocity. Walker and Madeline, feeling betrayed by my refusal to fold, unleashed a barrage of legal attacks aimed at crushing me. Isabel, worth every penny, met their aggression head-on, trading vicious blows in a battle fraught with accusations and revelations. Madeline's attempts to smear me as an unfit mother only fueled our resolve to expose her manipulative scheme to secure a male heir. It was a soul-destroying process, but I stood firm, refusing to give ground. I was determined to fight not just for my rights but for Daisy's future, a battle I was prepared to win at all costs. Fueled by a fierce determination to ensure stability for Daisy, the lengthy 7 months of bitter legal wrangling finally nudged Walker's camp towards seeking a negotiated settlement. They were eager to end the relentless hostilities and prevent any further scandalous revelations that might have erupted. The conference room was heavy with a tense silence as the legal teams assembled. Walker walked in, his posture rigid yet his eyes shadowed from the prolonged strife. Following him, Madeline entered, her features slightly disfigured by faint scars, a lasting reminder of the vase incident, and her trademark sneer still intact. The usual pleasantries were skipped, a sign of how frayed relationships had become. We went straight to the point. "My client is willing to offer a fair distribution of the marital assets, provided certain conditions are met," Isabel declared firmly. One key demand was the permanent relinquishment of any custodial claims over Daisy. It was a painful concession for me, but crucial for securing my daughter's future. Isabel continued, unflinching. "Additionally, we require that all details concerning the unorthodox reproductive tactics during the marriage remain confidential." It was a sharp dig at their twisted plot for a male heir and a not-so-subtle threat about the criminal implications that lingered over their heads. Madeline's glare intensified, seething with quiet fury. Their lead counsel, though clearly displeased, admitted, "While such terms are unusual, we are prepared to agree to this equity distribution, provided there is indemnity against any future claims." The underlying tension was palpable. They were acutely aware that their financial misdeeds had been thoroughly exposed, risking not just Walker's business but also potential legal repercussions. They were cornered into silence to suppress the whole sordid affair. The negotiations stretched for hours, dissecting vast assets and investments meticulously. Eventually, we reached an agreement, anchored by a mutual commitment to silence. Madeline's misery was evident. Her grip over her son's life and Daisy's future was irrevocably loosened, marking a significant personal defeat for her. "This is a sickening, infuriating affair, but you've stood your ground and ensured the best possible outcome for Daisy," Isabel whispered to me as the final documents were being prepared. I felt a profound exhaustion and little else. There was no joy, only the stark relief of having survived, of having imposed some measure of consequence on Walker and Madeline for their egregious actions, and of securing a stable future for Daisy. As I slid the notarized agreement across the table, I met Madeline's venomous stare one last time. "Don't ever come near me or my daughter again," I stated flatly, too drained to enjoy her frustrated reaction to my final words. I simply stood up and left the room, gathering what remained of my dignity as I prepared to step into a new, uncertain phase of life. With the divorce finalized and my financial independence assured, my focus shifted to rebuilding our lives, away from the toxic influence of Walker and Madeline. A priority was reuniting with Daisy, who had been kept distant during the tumultuous months. When Daisy brought her home, Daisy ran straight into my arms, her small body shaking with sobs. "I missed you so much, Mommy." "I was so scared," she cried softly. "I know, baby," I soothed, holding back my own tears. "I missed you more than you could ever imagine. But it's okay now, we're together again." In that moment, holding Daisy, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. No matter the challenges ahead, I was determined to provide a loving, stable home for her, free from the shadows of the past. The journey ahead would be about healing and rebuilding, for both of us, step by step. As Daisy pulled away, her young face still carried an innocent yet somber expression. "Is Daddy ever coming home?" she asked, her deep brown eyes, so reminiscent of Walker's, searching mine for truth. A lump formed in my throat. "Daddy can't be with us anymore, sweetheart," I replied gently. "He made some choices that weren't right." Daisy's brow furrowed slightly, confusion evident. "Did he do something bad?" "In a way, yes," I sighed, drawing her close once more. "But you don't need to worry about that now. What's important is you and me, and how we move forward together, okay?" She nodded, her understanding still partial but accepting the simplicity of our new reality. In that moment, I promised myself to protect her innocence and trust in every way possible. Over the following weeks, we began to rebuild our lives, just the two of us. With the financial settlement from Walker, I secured a cozy rental home away from the ruins of our past life, enrolled Daisy in a new school, and realigned my own career in marketing communications. Gradually, Daisy's vibrant spirit returned as we adjusted to our new normal, free from the toxic influence of Walker and Madeline. An unexpected hiccup arose when I received a bitter communication from Alina, Walker's former mistress, the woman he had intended to use to sire his heir. "Your pathetic excuse for a husband came crawling back, in case you were wondering," her message began acerbically. She shared that after experiencing his true nature and his domineering mother, she wanted no part of their dysfunctional circus. Alina also revealed that she had demanded a hefty sum to maintain her silence and disappear from our lives permanently, a sum paid from my share of the divorce settlement. Rather than feeling anger, I pitted Alina's misguided belief that she was anything more than a disposable pawn in Walker and Madeline's twisted games. Her departure marked the definitive end of their disastrous plot to produce an heir, a closure more punishing to them than to me. In the months that followed, despite occasional outbursts from Madeline's camp, tantrums about losing control over her son and grandchild, I maintained strict boundaries to preserve peace for Daisy at all costs. 8 months after everything settled, I received a rambling, awkward text from Walker. "I know I have no right to darken your life any longer. The wreckage left behind is entirely my shame to bear, but I hope one day Daisy will understand that despite everything, I did love her with all my heart." His words, a feeble attempt at seeking absolution, didn't stir me to respond. I was wholly focused on our new beginning, the sanctuary of tranquility and love I'd built for Daisy and myself. Years passed with surprising tranquility as I raised Daisy in our peaceful new life. We faced typical struggles and heartaches, but they were minor compared to the constant toxicity of my marriage. As Daisy grew into a brilliant, self-assured young woman, I made sure she understood the basics of our family's dissolution, enough for her to recognize the deep flaws in her father and grandmother's values. Daisy never expressed resentment toward them, instead showing a detached pity and an intrinsic understanding of how their obsessive pursuit of an heir had shattered any potential bond. "I'm just glad I had you, Mom," she would say with maturity beyond her years. "You were the only one who really knew what was important, family, not bloodlines." Her words filled me with both pride and a twinge of sadness for the innocence she had to relinquish too soon. From a young age, I had shielded Daisy from the worst of their malice, but nothing could have prepared me for the seismic shift that occurred when a plain-looking certified letter arrived. At first glance, it seemed innocuous until I noticed the return address from a maximum security prison, which sent a chill through my veins. With trembling hands, I opened the letter to find a terse message that knocked the air from my lungs. "Mrs. Reading, we regret to inform you that your former husband, Walker Reading, has been incarcerated on charges of corporate racketeering, embezzlement, and tax evasion related to his business activities." The legal jargon continued, but my vision blurred as the reality sank in. Walker was sentenced to a decade in prison, his career and reputation completely destroyed. It was the thermonuclear strike I had once threatened with my hidden evidence, hoping it would never need detonation. Yet, the authorities had delved deeper after our tumultuous divorce, exposing the full extent of his financial misdeeds. A twisted sense of satisfaction momentarily surged through me, but it quickly turned sour, replaced by a complex cocktail of dismay, remorse, and unexpected empathy for Walker. Despite his despicable actions and the punishment he deserved, I couldn't help but think about how this would devastate Madeline. Her entire world, her toxic obsession with perpetuating the family empire through a male heir, was crumbling. Now, with Walker behind bars, she would be left alone, her manipulative schemes reduced to dust. As I battled the unwelcome surge of compassion, a reminder of the young bride I once was, I recoiled at how Madeline's relentless pursuit had ultimately been her undoing. The irony was bitter. Her rigid worldview had triggered her downfall. I pondered the broader implications. What would become of their real estate empire and amassed wealth with Walker incarcerated? More pressingly, how would this affect Daisy? Lost in these thoughts, I was reviewing the letter for any further details when Daisy entered, fresh from her university classes. "Hi, Mom, did you hear from?" She stopped mid-sentence, noticing my pale, shaken demeanor. "Mom, what is it? What's wrong?" Drawing a deep breath for composure, I handed her the letter without a word. Daisy scanned it quickly, her expression shifting to disbelief. "Oh my God, Dad's in prison," she uttered, looking up at me, the shock and hurt clear in her eyes. I pulled her into a comforting embrace, stroking her hair as I had when she was a child. "I know, honey, it's a lot to process," I murmured. After a long moment, she pulled back, her eyes resolute, her voice steady. "This doesn't change anything for us, Mom. His mistakes, his crimes, that's on him. We've built a good life, beyond his mistakes and grandmother's madness." Daisy squeezed my hands firmly, her warm smile reflecting the resilient spirit she'd inherited. "Maybe this can be the end of it all, a fresh start, free from his shadow and her poison for good." Looking into her wise, determined eyes, I felt a surge of pride and love. She was right. As the monumental shockwave of Walker's imprisonment and Madeline's impending isolation reverberated, we stood solidly together, undisturbed and free. Perhaps this was the cosmic realignment we needed, setting the scales right at last. Pulling my brave, beautiful daughter close, I felt the burdens of our dark family history begin to peel away, like shedding old skin. In their downfall, brought on by their own lies and lust for power, I had found a quiet strength. In their self-ruination, I had not only survived, I had triumphed, my resilience echoing through the life we continued to build together. My quiet resilience and the unbreakable bond of love I shared with Daisy had triumphed over the generational conflict. As their self-made kingdom of entitlement crumbled to dust, the echo of my steadfast declaration to Madeline from years past resonated stronger than ever. don't ever set foot near me or my daughter again." This time, the finality of those words was absolute, a permanent barrier erected from the ruins of their downfall. As I parked along the curb, an all-too-familiar sense of anxiety began to rise within me. Today marked the beginning of a new school year, a day I dreaded because it meant encountering my ex-husband, Anthony, and his new wife, Victoria, during the school drop-off. I drew a deep breath, turning to my supportive husband, Jackson, who comforted me with a gentle squeeze on my hand. "You've got this, Maya. I'm right here with you," he reassured me, his warm brown eyes meeting mine with confidence. I nodded, bracing myself for what was coming. Jackson and I exited the car, following our children, Silas and Everly, who were happily skipping ahead, buzzing with excitement for their first day back. "Silas, Everly, slow down. Wait for us," I called out, picking up my pace to catch up with them. As we neared the school entrance, I spotted Anthony, tall and assertive, with Victoria clinging to his arm, her overly snug dress and bold makeup catching everyone's eye. Well, if it isn't the happy little family," Anthony mocked disdainfully as we approached. I felt Jackson's comforting hand on my back, grounding me. "Hello, Anthony, Victoria," I responded calmly, my voice hiding the storm of emotions inside me. Victoria shot me a condescending look, her ruby red lips twisting into a smirk. "Oh Maya, fancy seeing you here. You look a bit worn out. Guess chasing after two kids really takes its toll, huh?" she taunted. I clenched my teeth, resisting the urge to retort sharply. Instead, I squeezed Jackson's hand, finding strength in his solidarity. "The kids are doing wonderfully, thanks for asking," Jackson chimed in, his voice friendly yet assertive. Silas has been eagerly counting down to seeing his friends again. Anthony's eyes hardened as he looked at our son, a malicious glint appearing. "Yes, I'm sure he has. Though I wonder how long it'll be before he starts asking about his real father," Anthony sneered. Silas, unaware of the underlying tension, continued to fidget excitedly, ready to run off with his friends. Everly, picking up on the unease, clung to me more tightly. "Anthony, that's enough," I said firmly, my voice steady and determined. "The kids are off limits, and you know that." Anthony leaned in close, his tone menacing. "Oh Maya, you know I'm not the one setting the limits here. Maybe if you'd been a better wife, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere," he hissed. A rush of fury and humiliation surged through me, but before I could reply, Victoria let out a loud, mocking laugh. The moment was intense, but Jackson's presence provided a comforting reassurance, reminding me we were in this together. Victoria's piercing laugh caught the attention of the other parents gathered at the school entrance. "Oh, Anthony, darling, you always had a way with words," she jeered mockingly. Poor Maya, still trying to hold on to her dignity after all these years. The situation was quickly escalating, and I knew I needed to protect my children from this toxic display. I stepped forward, positioning myself between Anthony, Victoria, and our kids. "That's enough. Come on, kids, let's get you to class," I said, ushering them away. As we walked away, Anthony's voice, thick with spite, echoed behind us. "This isn't over, Maya. Not by a long shot." I stopped in my tracks, his menacing words sending shivers down my spine. It was clear this was only the beginning of a larger struggle. Driving home after dropping the kids off, the encounter replayed in my mind. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. How dare he? After everything he had done, he still had the nerve to belittle me in front of our children, using our son as a pawn in his cruel games. In a moment of frustration, I slammed my hand against the dashboard, the sharp pain momentarily grounding me. As I leaned back in my chair, I felt a mix of fury and resolve. Anthony had underestimated me. I was ready to stand up for myself and reclaim my independence, whatever it took. Sitting back in my chair, my mind raced as I grappled with the enormity of Anthony's betrayal. After years of pain and heartache, His desire to dominate every aspect of my life was unrelenting. Suddenly, I was pulled from my thoughts by Jackson's voice. "Maya, honey, what's wrong?" he asked, concern etching his face as he stood in the doorway. I had been so engulfed in my revelations that I hadn't noticed his arrival. "It's Anthony," I replied, my voice quivering with emotion. "He's been sabotaging my career, Jackson. All this time, he's been plotting to drag me back to him." Jackson's face set into a mask of anger as he listened. "That son of a..." I knew he was trouble, but this? He stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "What are you planning to do?" I met his steady gaze, feeling my determination solidify. "I'm going to fight back. I won't let him win, not this time." Jackson nodded, his eyes gleaming with pride and support. "I'm with you, Maya. Whatever you need, I'm here." Taking a deep breath, I felt a burden lift from my shoulders. With Jackson by my side, I was confident that we could confront Anthony and come out victorious. "I'm going to need your help," I stated, already piecing together a plan. "We need to gather more evidence and build a solid case against him. And I know just the person who can help us." I reached for my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found the number of Alex, an old friend and a skilled lawyer who had always supported me. If anyone could aid in dismantling Anthony's schemes, it was Alex. As I pressed the call button, a surge of renewed purpose energized me. This was my opportunity to escape Anthony's control, to reclaim my life and secure a future with the man I truly loved. The phone call to Alex proved pivotal. As soon as I explained the situation, he sprang into action, his legal acumen and strategic thinking focusing immediately on how we could best proceed. "Maya, this is a clear case of harassment and financial manipulation," Alex asserted, his tone serious. "We'll need to collect as much evidence as possible to build a robust case against Anthony." I nodded, a sense of relief washing over me. I had already started gathering proof of Anthony's manipulative tactics, and the evidence was mounting. With Alex's help, I felt ready to confront the challenges ahead and free myself from the shadows of the past. "I can't believe he's been doing this all along," I said, shocked to the core. Alex responded with a low whistle. "Sounds like he's been playing the long game. But don't worry, we're not going to let him get away with it. I'll start putting together a legal strategy, and you need to keep collecting everything you can. We're going to take this guy down." A wave of gratitude and relief swept over me. "Thank you, Alex. I really don't know what I'd do without your help." "Hey, that's what friends are for," he replied reassuringly. "I've got your back, Maya. We're going to make sure Anthony pays for his actions." As I hung up the phone, a sliver of hope sparked within me. With Alex's support, I felt equipped to confront Anthony's relentless manipulations. However, just as I was about to delve back into my research, my phone rang again. This time it was Victoria's number on the caller ID. I hesitated, torn over whether to answer, but ultimately, curiosity and concern won out. "Hello, Maya, it's Victoria," her voice came through, strained, and I could hear faint crying in the background. "Victoria, what's wrong?" I asked, my pulse quickening. "It's Anthony," she murmured, her voice a barely audible whisper. "I found something disturbing in his accounts, and I think he's been deceiving me." Despite our complicated past, I felt a surge of sympathy. "What did you find?" I prompted gently. Victoria inhaled shakily. "Massive debts, suspicious transfers, and much of it appears to be linked to his dealings with you, Maya. I think he's been using me to conceal his own financial problems." I sat back, my mind spinning. Anthony had kept Victoria in the dark about his dire financial state, manipulating her as just another piece in his schemes. "Victoria, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this," I said softly. "But I want you to know I had no idea about any of this. Anthony has been undermining me for years, and I've only recently discovered just how deep his schemes go." There was a pause on the other end, and then Victoria spoke again, her voice tinged with a new resolve. Maya, I want to help. If what you're saying is true, then I need to understand just how deep Anthony's deception goes. I can't be part of this anymore, Victoria's voice crackled through the phone. I was taken aback by her sudden willingness to cooperate, but I quickly grasped the significance of this moment. Victoria, your help would be invaluable. Let's work together to bring Anthony's lies to light, I responded, sensing an opportunity to strengthen our case against him. As I ended the call, a wave of cautious optimism washed over me. Victoria, an unexpected ally, could be crucial in our efforts to dismantle Anthony's schemes. With Alex's legal acumen and Victoria's newfound willingness to cooperate, I felt more empowered than ever to take on Anthony's relentless manipulations. Together, we began to meticulously gather and compile evidence of his underhanded tactics, aiming to build a robust case that would unveil his true character. Here's what we've got so far, Alex said, his brow furrowed in concentration as he spread out documents across the conference table. Anthony has been systematically undermining your business dealings, sabotaging your contracts, and interfering with your client relationships. I nodded, my determination firming. The proof is all here, Alex. He's been trying to push me back into a position where I'd be financially dependent on him. Victoria, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up, her voice a mix of anger and betrayal. I can't believe he's been doing this all this time. I thought he was just a successful businessman. I had no idea about the extent of his deception. Alex reached out, placing a reassuring hand on Victoria's arm. I know this is hard to take in, but we're going to make sure Anthony pays for what he's done, he assured her. Maya, I think the best course of action is to start exposing his unethical practices to his business partners and stakeholders, Alex suggested, turning back to me. A surge of determination filled me. Let's do it. I'm ready to take him down. Over the next few days, Alex and I worked tirelessly, compiling evidence and formulating a strategic plan to systematically dismantle Anthony's carefully constructed facade. We reached out to his business partners, alerting them to his unethical behaviors and setting the stage for a major showdown. The battle was just beginning, but with Alex's strategic mind and Victoria's insider knowledge, we were on a strong footing to expose and confront Anthony's manipulative tactics once and for all. Leveraged Victoria's insider knowledge to strengthen our case, the immediate effects were striking. Anthony's business dealings started to unravel as his partners and investors grew increasingly suspicious of his dubious activities. Watching the downfall of a man who had once wielded such control over me was immensely satisfying. However, just as it seemed we were gaining ground, Anthony launched a counterattack. A frantic call from one of my employees shook me. A key client had suddenly terminated a lucrative contract, citing doubts about my leadership and the stability of our company. Damn it, Anthony, I muttered, slamming my fist against the desk. He was clearly not going down without a fight. Alex's expression was one of grim determination. This is exactly the kind of move I was expecting from him. But we're not going to let him win. We've built a solid case, and we're going to use it against him. Victoria, who had been following the conversation closely, leaned in, her expression steely. I'm in. Whatever it takes to bring Anthony down, I'm with you. With renewed resolve, the two of us planned our next steps, determined to expose Anthony's deceit and reclaim the power he had usurped from me. As we walked into the conference room to meet with Anthony's business partners, adrenaline surged through me. This was my opportunity to break free from his influence and secure my future. Gentlemen, I began, my voice steady and clear, we're here to discuss the unethical practices of Anthony Moore and the impact they've had on our business operations. The room fell silent, the atmosphere heavy with tension. As Alex, Victoria, and I presented the compelling evidence against Anthony, the businessmen around the table began to shift uncomfortably, their expressions turning from disbelief to indignation as they grasped the extent of his malpractices. This is outrageous, exclaimed one of the partners, a well-respected businessman named Robert. If what you're saying is true, V has been systematically undermining our company's success for his own personal gain. I nodded, maintaining firm eye contact. The proof is all here. Anthony has been sabotaging our contracts, interfering with our client relationships, and even redirecting funds from our projects into his personal accounts. Victoria, her eyes alight with righteous fury, added, I had no idea about the extent of his deception. I believed he was a successful and honest businessman, but it turns out he has been using his position to exploit us all for his personal benefit. As we laid out our case, the atmosphere in the room grew charged with a sense of urgency and a collective desire for justice. This confrontation was not just a revelation, it was the beginning of a pivotal shift. Anthony's empire of lies was crumbling, and with each piece of evidence we presented, we were one step closer to reclaiming our integrity and redirecting our futures away from his manipulative grasp. Anthony had been exploiting me to mask his own financial difficulties. As Victoria revealed this, the other partners in the room exchanged uneasy glances, realizing the gravity of the situation. Alex, clear and authoritative, leaned forward. Gentlemen, we urge you to sever all ties with Anthony Moore and his businesses. Continuing to associate with him will make you complicit in his unethical practices, and we will not hesitate to take legal action. The room burst into animated discussions as the partners weighed the ramifications of dissociating from Anthony. My heart raced as I watched the tide slowly begin to turn against him. After a tense and prolonged debate, Robert, a respected figure among the partners, stood up, his expression somber. After careful consideration, we have decided to end all our business relationships with Anthony Moore. His actions are reprehensible, and we refuse to be associated with such blatant disregard for ethical standards. A collective sigh of relief swept through the room, and I felt a surge of triumph. We had won a significant battle, and Anthony's carefully constructed empire was starting to show cracks. As we exited the conference room, Alex patted my shoulder, a proud smile on his face. Nicely done, Maya. I knew you had it in you to take him down. I returned the smile, feeling lighter. None of this would have been possible without you and Victoria. Thank you both for standing by me. Victoria stepped forward, her expression resolute. Maya, I might have been Anthony's wife, but I refuse to be complicit in his deceit and manipulation. He's going to pay for what he's done to you and to me. I reached out and squeezed her hand, feeling a newfound respect growing between us. Together, we're going to ensure he does. In the days that followed, news of Anthony's unethical practices spread like wildfire through the business community. One by one, his partnerships and contracts began to unravel, the damage to his reputation proving to be irreparable. As I watched Anthony's world crumble, I felt a complex mix of satisfaction and anticipation. This battle was no longer just about my redemption, it was about reclaiming the power he had stolen from me and ensuring he could never again use his influence to harm me or my family. With each victory, my resolve and determination grew. Anthony had once been the one in control, but now the tables had turned. I was the one calling the shots, and I was relentless in my pursuit to see him utterly defeated. As the impacts of Anthony's unscrupulous behavior continued to unravel his world at a rapid pace, I watched with a mixture of satisfaction and apprehension. Knowing Anthony, his desperation was bound to escalate, and true to form, he soon launched a bold attack against my own company. It began with a flurry of anonymous calls began targeting my clients, casting doubt on my leadership and the stability of my business. As rumors circulated, I felt the pressure mounting. Several key accounts began to show signs of faltering support. Damn it, Anthony, I muttered under my breath, my fists clenched in frustration. He was clearly not going down without a fight. I immediately reached out to Alex, and we plunged into an intense strategy session. This is the kind of underhanded tactic I expected from him, Alex noted, his brow furrowed in concentration. But we're not going to let him win. We have solid evidence, and we'll use it to our advantage. With renewed vigor, we reached out to our clients and partners, presenting them with undeniable proof of Anthony's misdeeds. It was a careful balance of reassuring our stakeholders while affirming our commitment to integrity and transparency. Just as it seemed we were regaining control, Anthony escalated his efforts. I was in my office reviewing financial reports when my assistant appeared at the door, her expression tense. "Maya, Anthony Mori is here, and he's demanding to see you immediately," she informed me. A chill ran down my spine, but I steeled my nerves. "Send him in," I said firmly. Anthony burst through the door, his eyes wild, his usual composure shattered. "Maya, what the hell have you done?" he snarled, slamming his fist on my desk. I remained calm, meeting his furious gaze with steady determination. "I've done what I needed to protect myself and my family from your manipulative schemes, Anthony. You brought this upon yourself." He laughed bitterly, his face twisting into a sneer. "Protect yourself? Ha! You're nothing without me, Maya. This company, this life, it's all because of me. And now you're trying to destroy everything I've built." I felt a surge of anger but maintained my composure. "No, Anthony. This company, this life, it's mine. You might have helped me get started, but I built this with my own two hands, and I won't let you take it away from me." Anthony's face contorted with rage, and for a moment, I thought he might become violent. But just then, the door burst open and Victoria strode in, her expression a mix of fury and determination. "Enough, Anthony," she said sharply, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "I know about your financial troubles, your shady business dealings. You're finished." Anthony's eyes widened, and he seemed to shrink before our eyes. In that moment, I knew the tide had finally turned. Anthony's reign of control was coming to an end, and I was poised to emerge victorious. As he stood before me, his facade crumbling, a profound sense of vindication washed over me. After years of enduring pain, manipulation, and the constant dread of losing everything, the moment of truth had arrived. Victoria's revelations, combined with the growing body of evidence documenting Anthony's unethical practices, had struck a critical blow to his already unstable position. The man who once held significant power over me was now nothing more than a desperate, cornered figure, his world rapidly crumbling. "Anthony, it's over," I declared, my voice steady and firm. "You've lost." He glared at me, his eyes a wild mix of fury and desperation. "Lost? No, this isn't over, Maya. You can't do this to me. I won't let you." Victoria stepped forward, her expression resolute. "Yes, Anthony, it is over. I've seen the evidence of your lies and your financial mismanagement. You're finished." Anthony's gaze darted between Victoria and me, his composure utterly broken. "You," he hissed venomously, "you're both going to pay for this." Despite my deep-seated anger, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity for him. "Anthony, threatening us won't change anything. It's time for you to face the consequences of your actions." He laughed hollowly, his shoulders slumping as if he had been deflated. "Consequences? You have no idea what I'm capable of, Maya. I'll destroy you. I'll destroy everything you've built." I knew Anthony was most dangerous when backed into a corner, but I refused to be intimidated. "Go ahead and try, Anthony. But this time, I'm not backing down. I'm done being your victim." His expression darkened, and for a moment, I thought he might become violent. However, something shifted within him, and he slumped in resignation. "Fine," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "What do you want?" I felt a surge of triumph, but kept my composure. "I want you to leave us alone, Anthony. Stop interfering in my life and my family's life. And I want you to make amends for the damage you've caused." Anthony's eyes narrowed, calculating. "Amends? What do you mean?" "I mean you're going to make a full confession, Anthony," I said, my voice hardening. "You will publicly acknowledge your unethical practices and make restitution to the people and companies you've harmed." His face twisted with rage, but he remained silent, his jaw clenched tightly. "And if you don't," I continued, "I will ensure that you pay the full price for your crimes." You won't just lose your business and your reputation, you'll lose everything. The room filled with tension as Anthony weighed my ultimatum. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he exhaled a defeated sigh. "Fine," Anthony muttered, his voice tinged with resignation. "I'll do it." As Anthony turned to leave, Victoria stepped forward, her expression steely and determined. "And Anthony, this is the last time you'll ever see me. I'm done with your lies and manipulation. Our marriage is over." Anthony's eyes widened, revealing a flicker of vulnerability, but he quickly masked it and walked out, his shoulders drooping with the weight of his defeat. I watched him go, a profound sense of relief lifting from my shoulders. It was over, Anthony's reign of terror was finally at an end. I felt empowered and supported, ready to move forward and build a new life away from his oppressive shadow. Looking around the room, I was surrounded by the smiling faces of my family and friends, all gathered here for Silas's 9th birthday. Despite the recent tumultuous events, we could finally celebrate this joyous occasion in peace and happiness. Jackson stood next to me, his arms securely wrapped around my waist, his eyes shining with love and pride. "You did it, Maya," he whispered, pulling me closer. "You finally broke free from Anthony's grasp. I'm so proud of you." I leaned into his embrace, feeling the last bits of tension dissolve from my shoulders. "I couldn't have done it without you, Jackson. You, Alex, and Victoria, you all stood by me, even when it seemed like everything was against us." Jackson chuckled softly, his eyes crinkling with warmth. "That's what family is for, Maya. We stick together, no matter what." Our attention was drawn by a burst of laughter from the other side of the room where Silas and Everly were playing with their friends, their faces alight with joy and excitement. Watching them, so carefree and happy, filled me with a deep sense of gratitude and relief. They, more than anyone, deserved a life free from turmoil and filled with joy. Today, as we celebrated amidst laughter and cheerful chatter, I felt truly free. Anthony's shadow no longer loomed over us, and the future looked bright. I was grateful for the love and support of those around me, knowing that together, we could face anything. This was not just a victory for me, but for all of us, a new beginning filled with hope and the promise of happier days. "This, Maya," Jackson murmured, his eyes warmly watching our children playing. "They deserve a home filled with love and laughter, free from the shadow of Anthony's darkness." I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. "You're right. And thanks to you, and everyone who supported us, that's exactly what they're going to have." As the birthday party continued, I mingled among our friends and family, soaking in the warmth and support of those who had stood by me through my toughest times. Colleagues, neighbors, and even Victoria came forward with congratulations and good wishes. Their genuine smiles were a testament to the community that had rallied around me during my darkest hours. "Maya, I just wanted to say how proud I am of you," Victoria said, her voice touched by a newfound humility. "And to thank you for helping me see the truth about Anthony." I felt a surge of empathy and reached out to squeeze her hand gently. "Victoria, you don't need to thank me. You're the one who found the courage to step away from him. That's not easy." She nodded, her eyes glistening with tears yet unshed. "I know, but I couldn't have done it without your support. You've shown me that there's a life beyond Anthony's shadow, and I'm determined to build that for myself." I smiled, feeling a newfound respect for the woman who had once been my adversary. "You're going to be just fine, Victoria. And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." As the party wound down and the last guests departed, I found myself alone with Jackson and the kids, basking in the warm glow of our living room fireplace. Silas and Everly were curled up on the couch, their eyes heavy with sleep. Jackson pulled me close, pressing a gentle kiss to my forehead. "It's over, Maya," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You can finally breathe again." I nodded, my own eyes brimming with tears of relief and joy. "Yes, Jackson, it's over. And now we can focus on building the life we deserve, together." Watching my family, safe and content in the warmth of our home, I knew that all the struggles had been worth it. Anthony's reign of terror was finally over, and I had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever to forge a future filled with love, happiness, and the unwavering support of those who truly mattered. I'm Hazel, currently in the 9th month of my first pregnancy. The anticipation of becoming a mother fills me with both nerves and excitement. My husband, Jaden, works a typical office job and has weekends off, but he spends most of that time at his parents' home nearby, which leaves me managing household chores and errands mostly by myself. Although Jaden shares a strong connection with his parents, his visits there mean little help at home, even as my condition makes it tougher to handle physical tasks like shopping for heavy items. Thankfully, my supportive friends often lend a hand. My daily routine involves waking up early to prepare breakfast for Jaden and see him off to work. Once he's gone, I tackle cleaning, laundry, and shopping. By evening, I prepare dinner and finally get some time to unwind. During my maternity leave, I've taken up vlogging, a new hobby that brings me great joy. I document my days, accompanied by photos of meals, clear blue skies, and blooming flowers in our garden. The interaction with friends and followers on my blog posts adds a bright spot to my days. One evening, as I was wrapping up dinner preparations, Jaden came home and carelessly left his belongings scattered. After tidying up and serving dinner, I mentioned forgetting to buy beer, which led to a harsh response from him, demanding I go to the store despite my advanced pregnancy. His insistence felt unfair, and his anger only escalated when I resisted. Reluctantly, I went to the store and met our neighbor Haley, who shared a kind word that lifted my spirits slightly. Upon returning, Jaden's demeanor had not improved. He complained about the time it took me to return and continued to be dismissive as I cleaned up after dinner. His harsh words deeply hurt me, but I chose not to escalate the situation further. After a quiet dinner by myself and a soothing bath, I went to bed, while Jaden seemed to forget the night's events by morning. His ability to disregard our disagreements left me feeling isolated and undervalued, adding to the emotional toll of my pregnancy. As he left for work with a casual demeanor, I remained silent, still stung by the previous night's exchange. Knowing the importance of appreciation, I was left speechless by Jaden's lack of it. His unkind words tempted me to retort, but instead, I sighed deeply, unable to express my disappointment, and watched him leave without eating dinner, claiming he had plans. After completing my household chores and a quick shopping trip, I prepared a simple meal just for myself, considering Jaden wouldn't be home for dinner. Unexpectedly, Jaden returned early, his plans cancelled. "I'm back. Didn't you make dinner?" "I'm hungry," he said, assuming I would have something for him despite his earlier statement. I explained that I had only prepared something for myself, which immediately soured his mood. Displeased with the meal I had put together, he criticized my cooking harshly, comparing me unfavorably to his mother. His words stung deeply. "I can't eat this. Go buy something else," he demanded. Exhausted and hurt, I felt the weight of his expectations pressing down on me. That night, he left in frustration to stay at his parents' house, and I was left alone with a mix of relief and sadness. The next morning, his mother called, accusing me of neglecting Jaden, her tone filled with disapproval. I tried to explain, but it was futile. I ended the call feeling more disheartened than before. Despite everything, I resolved to make an extra effort for dinner that night. I shopped meticulously, choosing ingredients carefully and even picking up Jaden's favorite beer. I spent much of the day cooking, hoping to mend things with a special meal. The dinner table looked inviting, and I felt a rare sense of pride in my effort. However, as the evening drew on, Jaden did not return, and my calls went unanswered. Anxiety mounted with each passing hour. When he finally staggered home late and visibly intoxicated, any hope of reconciliation evaporated. He was dismissive and harsh, rejecting my attempts to help him and hurling hurtful words. His brutal honesty shattered any semblance of peace, and I was left to dine alone, surrounded by the silence of our home. The next morning, Jaden acted as if the previous night's events were just a bad dream. His casual complaint about a headache contrasted sharply with the emotional turmoil I had endured. This pattern of disregard for my feelings left me questioning the foundation of our marriage, feeling more like roommates than partners. His lack of empathy and appreciation made me reconsider what I truly needed from our relationship, as I faced the reality of our growing disconnect. Jaden stumbled into the house, clearly having had too much to drink, and complained when he found himself left in the hallway where he had chosen to collapse. "Aren't you supposed to look after me?" he slurred, placing the blame squarely on me once again. "You never mentioned you'd be out late," I responded, frustration clear in my voice. "I prepared a lovely dinner and called you several times. Why didn't you pick up?" Jaden's nonchalant reply that his drinking party was rescheduled and questioning whether he needed to report his every move only widened the growing rift between us. It became painfully clear that expecting anything more from him only led to my own disappointment. The next day, I decided I needed a break. "I'm going back to my parents' home tomorrow," I told him. "Being around you has become unpleasant and draining." Jaden's dismissive attitude had pushed me to the brink, and I started to seriously consider divorce, especially with our baby soon to be born. Despite the daunting tales of labor from friends, my excitement to meet our child overshadowed the fear. Neighbors' encouraging words lifted my spirits, but Jaden's suggestion of a family trip took me by surprise. "Really? But my due date is next week," I countered when he mentioned his parents wanted to join. "Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you're sick," Jaden retorted, dismissing my concerns about the timing and the risk of traveling. "It's all set. We're going for 3 days. Prepare for the trip." Stunned by his insensitivity, I reached out to a close friend who shared my concerns. As the trip loomed closer, I tried to excuse myself, claiming I wasn't feeling well, but Jaden was adamant. "You'll be fine in the car." As we were about to leave, I felt a sudden warmth at my feet. Looking down, I realized my water had broken. "Jaden, we need to go to the hospital, now," I exclaimed. Panicking, he opened the passenger door. "Get out, you're making a mess," he said, unbelievably focusing on the cleanliness of the car rather than my urgent need. His next actions were beyond belief. He physically pulled me from the car. "We were supposed to be on a family trip," he said, callously. "Just go to the hospital by yourself." He drove off, leaving me alone, and in shock, tears flowed as I dialed for an ambulance, feeling utterly abandoned. It was then that Haley, a neighbor, approached, immediately understanding the severity of the situation. She quickly arranged for a taxi and stayed with me, providing the support and comfort I so desperately needed. As the taxi arrived and we headed to the hospital, I was immensely grateful for her presence, a stark contrast to Jaden's cold abandonment. After the distressing events leading up to the hospital, I found solace in Haley's presence during the ride. She held my hand, providing comfort and reassurance, and stayed with me until I was settled into my hospital room. As the labor pains increased, Haley was a constant support, even taking a moment to inform my parents of the situation before they hurried to the hospital, their faces etched with worry. Amid the intensifying contractions, my phone buzzed with a call from Jaden. My parents, visibly displeased to see his name on the screen, handed me the phone. Jaden's voice was panicky and desperate, but I was in no condition to deal with his drama. I ended the call quickly and instructed my parents to turn off my phone to avoid further distractions. Despite this, messages from Jaden kept coming. Eventually, I was moved to the delivery room. After enduring hours of labor, the sound of my newborn's cries filled the room, bringing an overwhelming sense of relief. Exhausted but elated, I saw my parents and Haley's smiling faces before I drifted off to sleep. When I awoke, still in the hospital bed and surrounded by the comforting presence of my parents, I felt the physical toll of the childbirth. My mother, noticing my fatigue, gently asked how I was feeling, while my father, teary-eyed, was consoled by her reminder that the postpartum period is indeed exhausting. Asking about my baby, my parents reassured me that the little one was just undergoing some routine tests and would be back soon. I noticed Haley's absence and felt a pang of gratitude for her unwavering support during such a critical time. Determined to express my thanks, I planned to visit Haley once discharged. Turning on my smartphone, I was confronted with a barrage of missed calls from Jaden. The sheer volume was disheartening, but I felt detached from any expectation of meaningful communication from him, so I dismissed the notifications. As a friend visited to congratulate me, our conversation turned to the recent events. Shocked and angered by what had happened, she half-jokingly offered to punish Jaden for me. However, she emphasized that my rest and recovery were paramount, chatting a while longer before leaving. My parents, having been briefed by Haley, discussed my future plans. I shared my thoughts about possibly divorcing Jaden, and they supported my decision unequivocally. Plans were made for me to stay at their house post-discharge. Jaden apparently visited the hospital during this time, but I had already instructed the staff not to allow him in my room. The next day, Haley visited with a fruit basket, a gentle reminder of her thoughtfulness. "Haley, thank you so much for everything," I said, overwhelmed with gratitude. She brushed off the thanks with a warm laugh, insisting that ensuring our health was her only concern. She mentioned her husband's fury over the ordeal, highlighting the broader impact of Jaden's actions. Grateful for her support and still processing the tumult of emotions, I reassured her, "Once things settle down, I'll come over to thank you properly." Haley's response was light and reassuring, reflecting a deep sense of community and care that had been so absent from my interactions with Jaden. This support network, in stark contrast to my marital experience, was a balm to my weary heart. When I first moved to this neighborhood, I had no idea that Haley, who quickly became a friend, was married to the CEO of the company where my husband worked. We often bumped into each other at local stores and gradually became closer through shared coffee outings. During these meetings, I learned about her husband's significant role, a detail my own husband was oblivious to, as he hadn't joined me in meeting our neighbors and generally kept his distance from local interactions. Haley had once confided in me, asking me to keep her husband's position a secret from my own husband, to avoid any unnecessary complications. I respected her request, especially given my challenging circumstances at home with my pregnancy and my husband's increasingly unreasonable behavior. Haley had hinted at intervening by talking to her husband, but I had always declined, not wanting to drag her into my troubles. However, the recent ordeal seemed to have pushed her to her limit. As Haley and I talked in the hospital, she expressed her steadfast support, reinforcing how lucky I was to have her by my side. Her strong words and warm smile reassured me, reminding me that she was more than a friend, she was a fierce ally. Despite the constant stream of messages from my husband, I chose to ignore them, focusing instead on my plans for the future with my baby. Just before I was set to leave the hospital, a close friend visited me with startling news. She showed me a post on social media that had rapidly gained attention, a post she had made about my husband's recent actions. This friend, who had a significant social media following, explained that a follower had recorded the incident of my husband yelling at me and forcing me out of the car. The video, with my identity protected, had gone viral, leading to widespread criticism of my husband and even his company. As the video spread, my husband and his parents began to face public scrutiny. The backlash reached into our local community and affected the reputation of my in-laws. Amidst this social media storm, my phone rang with a call from my mother-in-law. My friend, noticing who it was, suggested I confront her. However, drained by the entire ordeal, I chose not to engage and ignored the call. Soon, my missed calls log filled with attempts from my husband and his parents. The hospital staff, having become aware of the situation through social media, offered their support more openly. Whether it was visits or calls from my husband or in-laws, the staff maintained a professional and supportive demeanor towards me, for which I was grateful. In this whirlwind of events, the clarity about my future grew stronger. Supported by my friends, buoyed by the community around me, and driven by the need to provide a safe and loving environment for my baby, I felt empowered to make tough decisions about my marriage and the next steps in my life. The support I received was a testament to the strength of community and the power of standing up for oneself, even in the face of daunting challenges. As my hospital discharge date approached, I couldn't shake the worry that my husband and in-laws might be waiting outside. Despite my parents' reassurances that there was nothing to fear, the thought of my newborn being exposed to any potential conflict was deeply unsettling. However, my anxieties were quickly alleviated on the day of my discharge. As we exited the hospital, I suddenly heard the loud voices of my husband and his parents calling out to me. Before I could react, a group of men in black suits swiftly formed a protective circle around me. One of them, opening the car door, reassured me, "Don't worry, we're here on request to ensure your safety." It turned out that Haley had arranged for this protection, a fact my parents were already privy to. My mother, with a relieved smile, echoed the sentiment, "See, nothing to worry about." Grateful for the barrier they provided, I slid into the car, untouched by the chaotic scene outside where my husband and in-laws were visibly thwarted by the bodyguard's presence. As we drove away, my mind raced with thoughts of how to repay Haley for her unwavering support. Settling into my new life at my parents' home brought a semblance of peace, though attempts from my husband and his family to contact me persisted. I eventually sent them divorce papers, which they blatantly ignored. When my in-laws later tried to assert their familial ties over the phone, my father sharply countered their outdated views, leading them to abruptly end the call. Realizing the need for professional help, I sought a lawyer, a friend of my father's, who was willing to assist us. Upon learning of the social media video and the details of my situation, he reached out to my husband, who reacted defensively, insisting on handling our issues privately without legal interference. However, the lawyer maintained a firm stance, clearly stating that all communications would go through him as per my request. My husband's reluctance softened when faced with the prospect of mediation and potential court proceedings. His indifference towards our child and unreasonable expectations regarding property distribution were challenged by the lawyer. "If that's your stance, we'll see you in court," the lawyer stated calmly. Hearing this, my in-laws, who had been eavesdropping, quickly intervened, prompting a more compliant attitude from my husband. In the midst of these legal proceedings, I kept in touch with Haley, who humorously suggested seizing my husband's retirement pay as a possible garnishment strategy. Her shrewdness in such stressful times brought a small comfort to me. Later, my lawyer informed me that my husband wished to apologize and suggested a phone call under his supervision. As the call commenced, my husband's true colors showed through immediately. He demanded an apology from me, blamed me for his personal and professional troubles, and insulted me, claiming all the issues were my fault and calling for me to return and clean up the mess. Surrounded by my supportive parents and the lawyer, I listened calmly, choosing not to be baited by his accusations. When he finished his tirade by questioning my qualities, I remained composed, empowered by the realization that I was making the right decision in moving forward without him. This call only solidified my resolve to ensure a safer and more stable environment for my child, away from the toxicity that had overshadowed my marriage. After my husband's desperate pleas over the phone, I calmly informed him, "Just so you know, this conversation is being recorded. I'll keep it as evidence." The shock in his voice was evident as he stammered, "You recorded this? That's not fair." I was joking. "I'm sorry, I can't live without you. Let's start over. We truly loved each other, right? I promise I'll try harder from now on." Without a moment's hesitation, I ended the call, the recorded conversation securely in hand. I handed the audio over to the lawyer, asking, "Can we use this as evidence?" Observing the situation, the lawyer remarked with a mix of disbelief and resolve, "He truly is incorrigible." My parents, sharing in the sentiment, firmly resolved to cut ties with him completely, their astonishment at his behavior overshadowing any anger. As I navigated through these tumultuous moments, I found a part of me that was slightly entertained by the unfolding drama, acknowledging the little devilish streak within me. The divorce proceedings concluded smoothly. The agreements concerning property distribution and child support were settled without contention, and the chaos began to subside. Thanks to the information Haley had shared with her husband, the president of my ex-husband's company, swift action was taken against him. Known for his strong family values, the president believed that an employee who failed to protect his family could not be trusted to uphold the company's integrity. Consequently, my ex-husband lost his job, struggled with his housing loan payments, and eventually moved back to his parents' house. His reputation suffered greatly from the viral video, and he found it difficult to secure stable employment, resorting to part-time jobs to make ends meet. The societal judgment that befell his family was severe, and according to sources, it seemed to weigh on them heavily, possibly more than any legal repercussions. This unexpected level of ostracization made me reflect on the entire situation with a complex mix of emotions. With most of the tumult behind us, my health improved, and together with my parents and baby, we visited Haley's home to express our heartfelt gratitude. Both Haley and her husband welcomed us warmly, doting on my baby and making us feel truly cherished. That day, Haley and my mother formed a close bond, as did Haley's husband and my father. Our families grew closer, enriching our lives further. In a twist of fate, Haley and her husband's son, who was about my age, and I began to grow closer, developing a relationship that took everyone by surprise. A few years down the line, the prospect of becoming part of Haley's family became a real possibility, an outcome none of us could have predicted. Life, with its unpredictable turns, had brought us to a place of new beginnings and unexpected connections.